Good morning. Welcome to the Studio Q Show live. My name is Quinn Jacobson, and today we're going to get, I think we're going to get a good group in here today. That's what I'm hoping for. I've got the Q&A open, and we're just going to wait for people to start coming in. So today is Saturday, February 7th, 2015, and we are going to talk about some interesting things this evening, wherever you might be. Starting with a couple of events in China that I'll update you on, and then we're going to talk about doing business in this process of wet plate collodion, and we're also going to talk about some work. I hope you brought some work to share. I hope you can share some work, and I hope we can get some people interested in that. So let's see if we got them coming in yet here. And I know there's going to be a chat going on, a YouTube chat going on. I'll just give it some time here. Look at that. That's funny. 10 o'clock. It's time for the show. Let's do this. Today I have an obligation. This will be about a 2.5 hour show, maybe 3 hours. It depends. Maybe we go until for 3 hours. 1300 hours my time, 1 p.m. my time, however you look at that. See if we got some people coming in here. Patience is the key. So I guess what I can talk about a little bit while we're waiting for some folks to get in here and start asking some questions. Actually yesterday, Chinese time, Saturday really, Chinese time, Shanghai time, the Collodion Collective Asia inducted 4 new members in, a vice chairperson, secretary general, acting the same, and then 3 consultants, China Art Academy, I think the University of Shanghai. There's some people coming in. Hey, there you go. Some people coming in and really starting to form that. Hello, Zizlo. Lo from Singapore sends their greetings. I know it's very late there. I know it's very, very late, early Sunday morning probably in Singapore. So I appreciate you being here. And we've got some viewers coming in. We're up to seven viewers, I think. We're just going to wait for some people to come in video-wise and see what happens here. So again, I'm going to reiterate. If you have questions and you'd like to ask questions live, of course, here, go to the Q&A up to the top left there. And under the Q&A, you can submit your questions. They'll show up in my feed. I'll read them out loud, answer them, and then move on to the next one. So we've got some viewers coming in, just waiting for some video viewers. I hope I've done this right. I get nervous every time because I think, wow, nobody's in here yet. How to join. Jan, what you have to do, I sent you a link. Click on the link. Check your Gmail account. I send a link out. Check your Gmail account. Click on that link, and you come in here, and you'll show up on the video stream. Davida, same thing. You know what? I'll send you a link right now too. Hold on. We'll do this real quick while we're waiting for people. I can't log. Wow, nobody can log in. Okay, let me send these links out again. Kishore, can you send me an email address? What's your? Let's see. I'll just ask him here. What's your email address? Am I doing something wrong here? Maybe. Let me see. It's probably me. Let me make sure that that I'm good to go here. Yeah, because we got 10 viewers watching, but we have no one in the. Yes, Jan, you can do that if you just want to ask questions here. Absolutely, you can do that. Wait, here we go. We have somebody. Andy. Andy's in. Am I doing something wrong here, maybe?
Yeah, Andy.
Let me see. It's probably me. Let me make sure that that I'm good to go here. Yeah, because we got 10 viewers watching, but we have no one in. Yeah, Andy's got the feedback. I'm gonna mute Andy. Mute Andy. You can come back in and ask questions or talk to other people live here. Just unmute yourself and you can talk. The feedback, there's about a 10 or 20-second delay, and the feedback comes through YouTube when you have the YouTube chat open. So what I do is I just ask everybody to mute themselves, and then you can unmute yourself when you have a question or want to say something or whatever. So welcome, Andy. Andy's got the feedback.
Thank you.
Andy.
Thank you. Thank you,
Andy, you can come back in and ask questions. Perfect. Live here. So I know Andy got in, so I know it's got to be good to go here, but I will send out one more link here. Let's see if I can do this. One more time, I'll send out. Okay, there's.
Hi.
Hello. Charleston, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Is that your name, Charleston?
No, my name's Christine.
Okay, Christine, I'd rather call you by your name than a pseudonym.
Okay.
Welcome, Christine. Where are you at?
I'm in Charleston.
Charleston, South Carolina.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Well, welcome. Hold on one second. I'm going to send a link out here again and try to get some other folks in here. We can have 10 people. I know there'll probably be over 100 people in here today, so we're just going to get everybody rolling, get over the technical. It's only 6 minutes after 10, so hold on just for a second. I'm going to send Jan out another link here. And yeah, that's great. Send Jan out another link here real quick. And Kishore as well too. So there we go. And live show link. I should put my glasses on because I can't see typing here very well. I'm getting old, man. I'm getting old. Let's see. 1 second here. I'll grab this link, hopefully. And it should be back in here. Boom. Okay, guys. All right. There's the link to both of you. And we'll get this back up. So today we thought we'd have a little bit of a discussion on no mail received. It should be coming. It should be there shortly. Today we thought we'd talk about doing business in wet collodion, some ideas and examples of what people have done, and how people are actually earning some money in wet collodion. Let's see if I can send this out again here. Sorry about this. It's the technical. People have problems. I know it's a little bit difficult to get in sometimes. Some people can get in right away and some can't, and it's just really kind of strange. So anyway. So that's taken care of. So we thought we'd talk about doing some business in wet collodion, how people are working in this process to earn money, some ideas about what you can do. There's Jan. You got in, buddy.
Hello. Hi.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you.
Wie geht's? Alles klar, ja?
Alles klar.
So what we're gonna, once we get the chat here filled and I can kind of concentrate on what I'm doing, Oh, great. Our Chinese friends are watching. After they had the Collodion Collective Asia meeting, he says, "Hello, Quinn. Me and Gray. Oh, this is Stephen. Hello, Quinn. Me and Gray and several other Collodionists are here watching your live show after we had the first annual meeting of the Collodion Collective Asia. I don't know how to get video or audio access to your live show. Could you please send me?" Okay. Yes, Stephen, I will send him that link. Maybe we can get some Chinese folks in here. That would be awesome. Let's see if I can do this. You know, it's really weird. This Hangouts is cool, but if, man, once you start the broadcast, it's really difficult to manage and get people in and out and live show. Let me send this link off to our friends in China. There we go. So he'll get that. Boom. And then what's funny is you start these live shows and you've got people in here like we do now, and we're talking and we're doing something, and then all of a sudden my email lights up or my phone starts going off and people are saying, "Hey, I want to get in. How can I get in?" And it's very distracting, but we'll get everybody in. There's 3 people in. We've got 10 viewers. It's 10 minutes into the show, so we'll be okay. We also thought we'd do some critiquing if we want to. Look at some images. I know, what's the other German fellow's name? Daniel. Daniel emailed me, I think, late last night and sent a bunch of images he wanted to have get some feedback on. So please think about engaging and being involved in that during this broadcast as well. This is really great because what we can do here, unlike email or Facebook or anything like that, we can actually see the person, if they're in live video, we can see the body language, and we can know that they're joking when they say something, or they're not. It's context, right? So online, it's very difficult to do that because you can't read people's body language, and so are they insulting me? Are they serious? Are they not serious? It's really difficult. So this way, we can share work. Nobody will be stupid and say stupid things. At least I hope they won't. Usually they can only do that when they're online and anonymous, right? So they say they're trolling around and saying really awful things about people's stuff. But here, we're all professionals, we're all friends, we're all interested in this process, and we all want to help one another grow toward making better photographs or work toward making better photographs, and critiquing is a big part of that. So, Andy, you're in here twice, buddy. Which profile do you want me to keep up? If I kick you out, the wrong profile out, let me know.
No, this I don't know why they quit often, so it just crashed. So I re-log in,
You're fine, Andy. I got the right one. I don't have a video feed on you, but I have audio, so that's good. And I see Christine, I see Jan, and we're just going to wait on a couple more people. I know there's some real regulars that come in, but I'm not seeing them here. Let's see what I have under here. Oh, there's the chat is the blue button all the way at the top. Oh, Andy is Chinese. So we already have Chinese people in the chat, but I meant people in China.
I'm in George Eastman's house now. So.
Yeah. They just opened, they just had a meeting today on the Collodion Collective Asia, and they inducted 4 people into the organization, and it was quite a big thing. I did a little video piece for them because it was like 2 in the morning last night, and I get up very early in the morning, and 2 o'clock in the morning I'm sleeping. I'm usually in bed by 9 or 10 o'clock at night, so I couldn't stay up for their live show, but they're watching us, or I hope they're watching us. Stephen just, my interpreter just wrote and said, "Hey, Gray, Mr. Lee, and some other Collodionists are watching or want to watch the live show," so I sent them the link. But yeah, so the group chat is over here on the side. We also have the Q&A, so if you have any questions you want to answer or ask, put them up in the Q&A. Can I write it here? Yes, you can. Senior Nesty, please, you can ask your questions there if you can't get into the live feed. So, I know there's been, there's a lot of things happening in like these kinds of transitions in wet collodion. I don't want to say things trend in wet collodion, but they actually do. And there's been kind of a shift in some respects right now going on. It's really interesting to see. In the last 6 months or so, I've had a huge increase in requests and information and workshops as well on the wet collodion negative. And I started out doing these hangouts wanting to do a whole series on this, and I will eventually, but people have immediate interest in other things, and this is a long-term thing. So next time I'm going to try to fit in at least an hour of this show dedicated to making negatives and prints, and I'll do that at least once every show, because I know other people have, like last time we had topics about, oh, it'd be great if we could critique some photographs here. I'd like to show you stuff. It'd be great if we could do problem solving, technical problem solving live, and we can. If you have the work and you can get into the live feed and you have audio and we can see your stuff, well, we can definitely critique that. On top of that, there's a strong interest in trying to find a way to make working in wet collodion viable. Viable in the sense of actually generating income, generating revenue from wet collodion. And my personal feelings on this are twofold. I'll tell you, but the first one, I'll just quickly explain how I feel about this. The first one, I think it's really important to distinguish or compartmentalize work in this process. In other words, I consider myself an artist that uses photography to express himself, or his ideas, my thoughts, my questions, my concerns. So I consider fine art in the vein of a personal expression manifested through photography, painting, sculpture, song, dance, whatever medium you want to use. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that you're working from a place that's sincere and authentic. I think that's my definition of fine art would be working from an honest, authentic place to make photographs, right? So my projects have basically been about myself. I'm the only expert in the world on myself. I have the authority to say what I want about myself. I can identify the way I want about myself. I can ask the questions that I'm most interested in, and they're all personal. So it has nothing to do with the world of commerce, right? So my first big body of work I started 2000-ish, or even before, really. And it ended up being shown in the States the first time in 2006, and then in Europe, in Paris, in 2010. I sold the majority of that work in Paris. I didn't offer it for sale in the United States, but I sold the majority of that work in Paris. And so now the question becomes, so is that a commercial venture, making work from a personal place, putting it out there in the public, selling it, and now it's kind of a commercial thing? Well, it's art business, right? It's the business of making art and selling art. But the important thing for me is that you don't make the art with the intention or the idea of selling it. That's the dangerous part. When you cross that line, when you first start selling work, and I don't care what it's in, what medium or process or whatever it is, when you first sell that first work, the danger creeps in of saying, wow, I look at a show of 80 pieces and I sold 45 of those pieces, and these pieces all had this theme in common. And so now you start analyzing, oh wow, and it's serious. I mean, that's a serious proposition, because you're not talking about tiny bits of money. In 2010 in Paris, that show did 6 figures. That show did $100,000 US. So it's not like it's a tiny, inconsequential thing. It influences you. I mean, 100 grand to me, 100,000 US dollars is a lot of money to me. I don't know about everyone else, but it's a lot of money to me. So it's really important for me to keep that kind of influence away from the photographs I'm making. Now, if I don't do that, and this is the second part, if I don't do that, if I let that influence me, or if I start out down the path of just saying, I'm going to make work to sell it, I call that commercial work. I call that commercial work. And I know some people say commercial fine art or fine art commercial work, or, and that conflating those ideas or mixing those ideas up are kind of dangerous, in the sense that when you conflate those ideas, when you mix those up, you're not really sure if you're making work from your heart and your head, or you're making work from your wallet or your bank account, right? And the work that comes to supply your bank account is going to be very different from the work you make as a personal venture, as a personal form of expression. Maybe use it as your therapist or your cathartic. It's very therapeutic or cathartic for you. It is for me. So making that work, telling that story, that narrative, your own story of yourself, if you will, because I believe real, authentic, solid fine art photography work is really about the artist. In some way, it's got to connect strongly and deeply with the artist. It may not be apparent at first. You may have to, dig a little bit or read or whatever. I can see your question, David, vice versa. Oh, there he is. Here he is. Ciao, ciao. There he is. Live from Italy. He finally got in. Welcome.
Hi, people. Hi, people. Nice to meet you. Hi, people.
Introduce yourself, please. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Davide Nesti. I am from Florence.
Oh, sorry.
And I really love to hear Firenze, exactly. Firenze, the place where I wish one day you will come here.
I was just there a few years ago. I was just there.
Oh God, I missed you. I missed you.
I think I was in Florence, and Pisa, Italy.
Oh wow. Okay.
And Lucca
and Lucca, very nice town.
Beautiful, beautiful. In September of 2007. I was there when Pavarotti died.
Whoa.
Yeah, I was there in Italy when he died, and so that's why I kind of remember it. But I loved it. I loved Italy. I was down there teaching. I was in Italy teaching wet plate to an Italian guy that lived in Pisa.
Whose name? What name is the guy? The guy's name? Maybe I know him.
Nostafrano. Do you know? He's I think he lives in Malaysia now.
Okay.
You know him? You know the Italian kid in Malaysia? I'm trying to think of his first name.
No, unfortunately.
He just wrote me the other day too. I can't remember his first name.
Okay, no problem. And
welcome.
Thank you very much, and nice to see all the people here, and
Yeah, we got some good people here.
It's great. It's great.
Yeah. Well, welcome. We'll call you David. Davide. We'll call you David.
Yeah. Actually, it should be Davide.
Davide.
Exactly, because there's the E at the end, but it's David. It's okay for me, of course. There's no problem.
You hear all the English speakers say grazie. It's grazie. It's got an E at the end.
That's it. It's grazie.
Guess what? I've got some Southern Italian. I got some Southern Italian heritage in me. Do you believe that?
Yeah. Actually, my surname is a little tricky in English because my surname is Nesti, and you read just Nasty. In English seems, a sort of bad word, or
Well, no, in English they'd confuse it with Nesty, the drink.
Nasty. No, a nasty person,
Nasty. Well, you're the furthest thing from nasty, David. I know that. I've communicated with David for many years now, a few years anyway. And there's a lot of people in Europe that I've had a long-term relationship with. Sometimes not live through email or chat or text or phone conversations or whatever.
Facebook or whatever,
Yeah, but there's and Jan knows him from the Collodion weekend in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
That's good.
I think,
Hello,
meet,
David.
Yeah, hi there. We will meet again this year, I hope.
In a few months, I hope, in May.
Cross fingers.
Yeah. That's you know what's really great is the community in Wet Collodion comes together like this, and it's really special because we have. It seems to me, after many years working in this process and dealing with a lot of people and teaching a lot of people this process, it seems to me there's two types of people in the Wet Collodion world. There's the person that you just love, that'll give their arm for you, the shirt off their back, that'll do anything to help you, to get you where you need to go, to whatever it is. And then there's the person that's a total jerk, the total egotistical jerk. There seems to be one or the other in this world. And there's no real middle ground to me. You're either a great person or you're a real jerk. And that seems to maybe it's the art world in general, really, but Wet Collodion really brings out that kind of something in people. The love or the real animosity. I just posted an article on Facebook yesterday about I was going to talk a little bit about this too, about the death of expertise. And if you haven't read that article, you should go on my Facebook page and look for it. It's called The Death of Expertise. It's one of the last couple of posts I made. I just made it yesterday. That article, to me, really speaks to the problem, not only in photography, but in life in general, about this movement that's going on, this kind of anti-intellectual movement, this kind of, I know things because they're my opinion, and they're just fact. And people are getting away with that in the world all the time. And if we take it right down to our little Wet Collodion world, that's happening in there now too. There are people that's giving advice and trying to teach and giving people information that's just dangerous. I mean, straight up. Some of it's actually dangerous. Some of it is harmful. And my greatest fear is that one day we're going to have a big wet blanket thrown over this party, and that's an English idiom meaning that something's going to go terribly wrong, and our community is going to suffer from it because people are unwilling to listen to people that know what they're talking about, right? So for me, I look at, I just did an interview with this online Blur magazine, and they asked me, what's the difference between, why should I go to your workshops and not that guy's workshop? What's your difference? I said, experience. Would you rather learn, I know I would you rather go to a person that has many years of experience, has plenty of information out there that you can read, look at the photographs, read whatever you want to do, see if that person's right for you, that you've got a good match there, personality-wise and work-wise, and then go with the very most experienced person you can. That only makes sense to me. But people aren't doing that. People are being fooled, being tricked into other people putting on airs and talking about, their methodology, their techniques are better or easier or less expensive. That's a big one. Money. We were just talking about money here a minute ago.
I think it's important even how you are, not only, of course, the experience is important, but even if you are kind, if you understand that people maybe is a beginner, so needs to be guided in another way.
Yes.
And experience is important because you can see and can help people like a person with no experience would not.
Yes.
So,
right.
so it's is an important part for the learning process. I talk for myself, of course.
Yes, very true. And here's
I write to you quite often because you understand that you had to I am at the beginning, so you have to be more soft with me,
Right.
I appreciate very much.
I'm happy to do that. I think the most successful and the most impressive people to me are the people that ask questions. If ego gets in the way so much that you can't ask a question, I think you're in a dangerous position. I think once if you feel so guarded and you say, "Oh, I can't ask a question because I should know this," or "I'm in this position, I can't ask that question," I think you're in a real bad position. If I stop learning, if I stop having the desire to learn about this process, I'm going to get out. I'm going to get out. I mean, if you just shut down like that and you say, "Oh, I don't need to ask anything," or if you're answering somebody that's just coming into the process, or even people that's been working in the process and they've been working in it for years and they come across a new problem they haven't experienced. That's very common. That's very common. If you're a person answering those questions and you're giving bad information or poor information or even dangerous information,
or just you should know this. Is 5 years you do this, you should know this. Maybe I never had this problem before.
Right, exactly. I mean, so we can't stop asking questions. I ask questions a lot. I don't. Sometimes I don't. Get. It's strange. I want to ask questions. Part of this right here that we're doing, this right here, is for everyone's benefit, including mine. So I can learn things. So I can hear other people's ideas. So I can see other people's work. This is really important. If we start shutting down that way and we start, I don't, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be involved with this or that, or I can't ask any questions. I think we're in a real bad spot there if we get there.
I just think, and then I keep silent. I keep silent, but I just think that this is the difference between just a group of people sharing an interest and a community.
Yes.
This is the difference.
And we want to make this community a welcoming, friendly place, a non-intimidating place.
Nice and absolutely.
We don't want any of this kind of, oh, you can't do this or you can't be that, or I don't like any of that stuff. I really don't. I like people to be able to. Now, I'm not saying I won't challenge people if they bring something up or show something, ask something that I'm not a. I want to be challenged that way. That's a good thing. But I'm surely not anti this or anti that at all. I do prefer some things over others, just like anything, right? I mean, we have our favorite drinks, we have our favorite foods.
Of course.
Movies. I mean, we all have our personal
favorite girls, favorite women.
If you're Italian, you've got to say your favorite women, which is your wife. I mean, of course.
Of course.
So if we get
always.
If we get into this thing about egos and politics, and I know I'm not stupid. I know there are people that think I have a bad attitude, but I don't. It's because they think that because they've read things and they've taken things that I've written out of context, and they kind of they make it they reinterpret what I'm saying. I'm not anti anything and I'm not negative about anything. Let me take a couple of technical things here. Dale, I hope you're watching this, and Scott's up there too. I can see you, Dale. I can see your questions in here. Let me go to the chat real quick. Let's see what we have here.
I have written in the meantime one question. If you may read it, please.
Let's see. How is your attitude to make some workshops? Some people think if you learn and share knowledge, you create actually your future competitors. Oh, that's a really interesting question. Yeah, very good. Jan is asking, what's your attitude, or what are your thoughts about having workshops? And he said some people think if you learn and share your knowledge, you actually create your future competitors. Yeah, God, that's a really good question. I've been asked that before, and going back to some of the things people say about me, they say, "Oh, you bitch about people in wet collodion, and yet you turn around and you teach all these people. What gives, you know?" And here's my answer to that. I don't believe for a heartbeat that there's anyone's competing against anyone else. I really don't. This isn't about competition. This is about peers, and this is about, like David said, this is about people with a common interest coming together to share information and to share ideas, and hopefully, you know, in one of these sessions or all of these sessions, you walk away and you say, "Wow, I picked up a really good idea today," or "Man, what he or she said is really hanging in my head. This is really helping me and informing my work and my ideas about working in this process." I think that's what this should be. And I think one regret that I do have about teaching is it seems that at one point I created a lot of noise. And the noise that I created were people early on making photographs, even sometimes in a workshop, and then publishing those photographs or getting an exhibition with those photographs way too premature, way too early, way out of context for that kind of thing. And because the look and feel, the aesthetic of collodion is so capturing and just grabs you by the throat, you know, and makes you look at it, right? That's one of the beauties of it. It was really easy for them to do that. They come to a workshop, they make a few plates in an ideal environment, a perfect studio, a darkroom right behind me here, big, beautiful darkroom, big studio over here. How can they not make great images? Beautiful old lenses, all kinds of cameras, all kinds of glass. How can they miss? How can they miss? Then they take that work and they publish it or they show it in an exhibition. That's a problem to me, because the context of a workshop isn't about making work for a publication or exhibition. The context of a workshop is to give you the beginning information and the beginning knowledge for you to go back in your own environment and start working toward making your own work. And then after you get that down, is to sit down and think about your work or your project and get it all written out and think about it and mull on it and wrestle with it, and then you go make the work. That's the work that should be published and in galleries, maybe, right? I mean, not the work in the workshops. So that's one regret that I do have, Jan. And secondly, the noise, I can take my glasses off, the noise that it produces is loud. And it competes with me in this way, Jan. It doesn't compete with me in the sense, or me being a wet collodion artist. This could be any of us, right? Me, I'm just using me as an example. It competes with me or us in the way that it puts that noise of photographs out there. Once that wet collodion photograph is out there, you have to compete with it. That's your competition now. And the competition, not in the sense of somebody wins, but the competition in the sense of there's another wet collodion image to look at. That means they may not get to yours, or they may be distracted by this, or they may be turned off by it, or they may be totally turned on by it for the right reason or wrong reasons, and it creates noise. So it competes with you visually. It competes with you in the space that there are only so many spaces and so many eyeballs that can see this stuff, and those slots fill up. And if they fill up with 3 pumpkins and a doorknob photograph from a workshop, and you really have important or serious work you want to show, that's competition that you don't want to have, right? I mean, that's just noise. I call it noise. I've written about this a little bit, and here let me defend the people in the workshops a little bit too. I create them, so I have to make sure that I can accommodate and assimilate. I need to make sure that I can defend this position, and this is my defense on the position. When you come to a workshop, if you sign up and you come to one of my workshops, and unfortunately no one in this group yet has been in my workshop, one of my workshops. David's crying, but one day, my friend. if you come to one of my workshops, I'm going to give you the tools, the information, the literature, the resources, and my personal contact information so you can follow up with your question. Your questions aren't going to come in the workshop. Your questions are going to come 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, 10 years down the road. They're not going to come in a 2 or 3 or 5 day workshop. Just not going to happen. I'm going to give you the tools to take home to teach yourself this process. No one teaches you this process. I have never taught anyone this process, ever. They've all learned on their own. Everyone does. You have to. If you work in this process, you've learned it on your own. Did you have someone helping you to get going? Get started? Sure. I hope so. And I hope it was a good, reputable person. I hope, or somewhere.
Yeah. A friend of mine who is a photographer says to his students, the workshop begins when the workshop ends. So that's all. And it's really true.
That is absolutely the truth. So when we get into these conversations about teaching, you know, who did you learn from and who did this learn, blah, 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 blah. You know, at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, you're going to teach yourself this process. And it does matter who you learn it from. And I go back to that reputable, and I mostly talk about this in the context of safety. I know in Europe, I don't know who started this. I have a pretty good idea. But in Europe, it seems that everyone started boiling their silver bath, right? So they take their silver bath, it gets mucked up, it's got alcohol and ether in it, a bunch of nitrates, cadmium nitrate and potassium nitrates, and all these kinds of fallout from the chemicals and the compounds in it. And don't kid yourself, this has nitric acid in it. Silver nitrate is pure metallic silver that's melted down or dissolved in, if you will, nitric acid. That's why it's called silver nitrate, AgNO3. Ag is silver, NO3 is nitric acid. That's what this is made with, nitric acid. So silver nitrate and nitric acid mixed together, or really any kind, you heat that up to a certain temperature or certain temperatures, and you create what's called silver fulminate. Silver fulminate is one of the most explosive and dangerous compounds there is. It makes nitroglycerin look like a walk in the park. These things deeply disturb me. When I see and read about these things, oh, but I only boil it down to this, and I only do this much. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's like saying, oh, I only put a little bit of hydrochloric acid into the KCN. It's not a big deal. No, you don't put any acid in KCN. Never, never. I mean, it's kind of like that to me. So you have these things happening out there, and I've done my best to combat the safety aspects of it. But if the important thing is to learn from someone reputable that understands the chemistry, that knows how to handle it, that knows how to store it, that knows how to mix it. These things are critically important. Man, going back to the Online Blur magazine interview, one of the questions, they asked some really, really bizarre questions, to be honest with you. I've done a lot of interviews, and this is one of the interviews that were really strange. They started asking me a bunch of technical questions. How do you do your silver bath? And what is how do you lower your pH? This is a magazine article and an interview. It's like really kind of weird. They said, how do you lower your pH in your silver, or raise it if you need to? And my response was, first, let's talk about, do you know what pH is? Why are you raising it or lowering it? Do you know what it is? You know, I mean, first things first, in that order. It's important. It's important. So what my philosophy is go to a teacher that's reputable, that really knows. I posted the other day on Facebook, I said, what would a qualified instructor look like? And I was kind of joking, but really I wasn't. And I gave a parameter, I gave a listing of 10+ years working in collodion, publications, exhibitions, all kinds of stuff, you know. It takes you, I don't really think, with exceptional cases, I would say, I don't think anybody should be teaching this process that hasn't had at least 5 or 10 years experience. I really, and I mean not I make a couple of plates in the summertime experience every year. No, not that. I'm talking about making work on a consistent basis. Finding those problems that you've never ever seen before and experiencing those, because no one has gone that far yet. You know, that kind of thing. So pushing those boundaries. I think it's really important, and I think those 10,000 hours, I think that 10,000 hours thing is very true here. People need to spend a lot more time in this before they start teaching other people the process. Can people teach this process and people learn how to make plates? Yes, of course they can, because no one really teaches the process. They show you how to do something. You can go home and mimic it. But you're going to regret it if they go home and they mimic something and they miss one step and they put an acid with this or that with that and something terrible happens. You know, that's going to be the downfall of this process. That's where all of a sudden now we can't get the chemistry. That's where all of a sudden now, you know, things start happening that restrict us, that we can't do certain things. And that's my biggest concern is, number one, somebody getting hurt, or even animals or neighbors or property or something happening that's terrible like that. Hey, we've got Stephen in. This is our other Chinese friend. Stephen, welcome. I know I can't see you, but I know you can hear me, buddy. So it's got to be very late. What time is it in Hangzhou, Shanghai? Let's find out. It is right now. It is
almost 2 o'clock.
It is 1:45 a.m. 1:45 a.m. That is Sunday time. Sunday. So welcome, Stephen. We were just talking about teaching and people learning the process and people. Who do you go to? Does it make more sense? Does it make sense to teach more than one process? That's a good question, Jan. In what context? You mean outside of wet collodion?
Yes. I mean outside of collodion. I know that you also know other processes like daguerreotype or salt print and etc. Yeah,
so, I work in all 3 of the first processes. Or I have to make a public announcement right now, I guess I should say. It's no big deal. But I have stopped making daguerreotypes, and I can explain why if you want to hear it. But I do collotypes, paper negatives, salt prints, albumin, daguerreotypes, wet collodion, and the variants there, the positives, the negatives, and the prints, collodion chloride, albumin printing. The issue, the reason I learned those first 3 processes is I wanted context for the work that I was doing at the time. So I wanted context, and part of that context was a history of photography, and part of the context was my graduate degree. I did a Master of Fine Arts I studied wet collodion and other processes, mainly wet collodion. But my thesis is all about identity, difference, and memory, and so I did a big segment in my thesis on the history of photography, and part of that reason working in those processes was that. But my philosophy on processes is this, and you guys can chime in. I'd love to hear each of your responses. I'm sorry, Jeff, welcome, buddy. My response to processes is this, and chime in, and I'll mute myself after I say this, and then each of you unmute yourself and chime in if you'd like. Here's my philosophy. When you select a process to work in, I think you should have a very, very strong, good reason for not only choosing the process, but I can take it all the way down to the very material and the size you're working with, okay? So let me explain just a little bit more, go in depth just a little bit more by what I mean. I selected wet collodion photography for my Portraits from Madison Avenue project for very, very specific reasons. The first reason was I was dealing with memory. Memory as a small boy with my father going through these apartment complexes, these flats that he owned for low-income people, poor people, drug addicts, amputees, mentally ill people. The buildings were filled with the people. And I got to, as a small child, go to these places with my father and meet these people. I was 10 years old, 8, 10 years old. They put a lot of questions in my head. They filled me with questions about difference, about identity. Why were these people so different than me? And why, all these questions about identity started coming up. I couldn't formulate questions at 10 years old. I mean, they was just curious. I'd love to go down and sit with these old boys with shriveled up faces and chain smoking cigarettes and these little tiny flats and just really drunk and making their wine in their bathtub and just really intriguing to me. I mean, it was fascinating to me. It was a whole different world. So as I moved through life and I became an adult, these questions were still with me. They influenced me so much. They stuck with me all those years. And I became a photographer for a good reason. My parents were photographers. Came from that. I lived with it. I knew about it. I worked in it a lot as a kid. So it was a natural process for me to go back to photography and use photography to express these ideas with. So as I started shooting these portraits, and I did this in film, I did this in medium format film, large format film, I did it in digital, I tried all these different processes and aesthetics, this kind of look and feel that I was going for. Nothing worked. Nothing. No process worked to convey this idea of being in the presence 30 years ago, 40 years ago, of these people that put all these questions in my head about who we are and our differences and why this person's so different than this person and how they think and why they clash and why they come together or not, all these questions. And when I was in undergraduate school from 1989 to 1993. In 1992, I got to make some albumin prints in undergraduate school in an experimental photography class. And they weren't my negatives, of course, but when I saw those prints come off of that albumin paper, fixed and toned, I was just, this is it. For some reason, fully knowledgeable of the 19th century photography, for some reason my head wasn't connecting the idea of the past and that 19th century aesthetic to the present to make it feel like the past, to give this idea of memory, to give this idea of identity a whole different thing. So, man, when I saw that, I just joined those two, and it took me almost 10 years to go back and pursue that, to do that. And that aesthetic fulfilled everything that I wanted, and some that I didn't even know that I needed. The aesthetic fulfilled the idea of memory, identity, difference, this handmade, this arduous process, this difficult process, kind of like the people I was photographing were difficult. It showed all the human imperfections on the plate, are echoing our human imperfections, all the artifacts and imperfections on our plate, reflected that very person's essence on the plate. I mean, everything matched up. The fragility of the glass and the fragility of the people, everything just came together. How could I not use wet collodion to do this project, right? So I came at it from a very different perspective than most people come to it. Most people come to it and say, oh my God, I can photograph anything and it's wonderful. Anything. I can photograph this and it would look cool, right? And that's a danger. That is not a reason to pick a process. That is not a reason. And I haven't even gone into, do you use metal? Do you use clear glass? What size do you use? What kind of optics do you use? Why are you using all these things? Why are you making those choices? There's got to be a reason. And you've got to defend that. So when you come out and you just say, I use wet collodion because, I want to hear why you use wet collodion. And I'm going to mute myself.
Yeah. Well, I start. Italians always, yeah, Italians always start, of course.
but in English, please.
Yeah, of course. Of course. I try.
Io parlo un poco italiano, ma non.
Perfetto.
italiana non è buona, so proviamo lingua inglese.
Proviamo. Unfortunately, my English is not so good, so I apologize in advance with all of you because and I began with wet plate collodion because I needed something that I couldn't manage so well. I tried to express myself better. I needed a technique who has its own personality, its own soul, not just something that I can drive wherever I want. I want to be driven, I think is correct, to be driven. I don't know the verb, the correct verb, but I want to.
It's driven. It's driven. You're correct.
Driven. Okay. I want to be driven by a technique because I don't want to use too much rationality. I want to be in the nature. In nature, you never know where it goes. You never know what it. No.
David.
So.
David, in English, we have a really strange word in English for that. It's called serendipity.
Serendipity. That's it. Absolutely. So I began to make my plates. Now is 3.5 years that I'm trying to do wet plate collodion. I have all the kind of problems I can have with collodion, and some of my best images I made not all because of me, but because of the case, the luck, the process. So I like that the process add something to my work, and when it happens, I see that. Due to the fact that what you were saying before, the artifacts and the imperfections, our brain, for me, will fix this imperfection with emotions. Okay, so you give to the picture something that another kind of picture will not be able to take out of you. That's what I'm looking for, and what I'm looking for is to do the picture the best that I can, so that you increase and you improve your skills and so on. But even collodion will run faster than you. So you, and I really love this. I really love this.
Yeah.
That's how I began.
Yeah, very, very good. I think there's a word I use. I call it temporal confusion, and I'll give you an example of this. When I make a photograph, I don't have the actual original one with me, but when I make a photograph, and there's a photograph that I have as a young. In fact, I'll show. You've probably all seen this, but I'll just share it anyway. Entire screen or Google Hangouts. Entire screen. Can I do that? Tell me if you see the entire screen here. Present to everyone. Okay, yeah, you do. So I'm going to come over here, open a new window. I'm going to go to my website, and I'm going to show you this. I just want to explain this to you. When I make a photograph, I hope he's here. Yeah, there he is. You can all see that, right? So when I make a photograph like this gentleman here, so theoretically, you look at this photograph and you say, wow, that looks like a very old photograph. And theoretically, you would be right. It's made with a 19th century process. And it looks like a worker. The tools are ambiguous. There's a trowel and a hock, as we say in English, for putting concrete or what we call stucco on a house. But then you look at his face. Then you look at these round glasses. That the glasses aren't a problem. But then you look at these earrings and the shaved head and the goatee, and all of a sudden you start thinking, wait a minute, did men wear hooped earrings in the 19th century? And all of a sudden you start wondering what you're looking at. Are you looking at a photograph from the 19th century? Or are you looking at a photograph from the 20th century? You don't know. It's temporal confusion. It's time confusion. I used this technique in the beginning because I thought, and I was completely wrong about this, I thought that you had to grab the attention of people. And I wanted to do that using this temporal confusion idea by making these photographs that were subtly identifiable for the 20th or 21st century and ambiguous as far as the 19th century is concerned. So people are aware of this aesthetic. They can't articulate it, but when they see an old photograph, they know that it's an old photograph because they know that. They know the aesthetic of it. So I just used that to grab people. Now, back to David's comment, you know, that when you talk about a process, think about this. Chuck Close, I think it was, he said, photography is the most difficult medium in which to define oneself. So in other words, photography is the most difficult medium to make yourself stand out or to be unique. There's so much noise out there. There's so much competition. I don't even really call myself a photographer anymore. I call myself an artist that uses photography. I kind of like that verbiage more because photography is changing. It's morphing into something that we don't know what it is right now because we're in the middle of it, so we can't see it. But photography is changing, and this idea of temporal confusion and defining oneself in a process, I say you should be able to use any of those kinds of things in photography or in your work that draws attention to your work but doesn't distract from the idea, the concept, and the intention of the work. Does that make sense? In other words, I guess I'll put it blatantly. If you want to be gimmicky, you can be gimmicky. You can be kind of, Shotski kind of esque if you want to be. But be careful you don't take that so far that it turns into kitschy, kind of nasty, superficial stuff, and it distracts from your intention of your work. That's my belief. That's my philosophy. Can we hear from others why they use wet collodion? I'm going to mute my mic.
All right, I'll talk. Okay. Why did I use wet collodion? Well, I was initially a painter when I was a kid, and I would get frustrated with painting. I wanted to be more realistic. So eventually, I mean, I was doing photography at the same time, but never really thought of myself as a photographer. And then, anyway, I got more serious about photography and got on the bandwagon. Everyone was kind of pushing me to be commercial, so I did that for several years and made a bit of money at it and was just really not very fulfilled. I was trying to do artwork on the side still with my photography, and I could see myself doing what I was producing was I was just experimenting and trying to do surreal kind of work and almost like a dream state, and doing a lot of light painting. And but like you said, I wasn't really getting the results I wanted. I was frustrated. So a lot of the work I do has a supernatural feel, so I like the aesthetic of wet plate. I saw a friend of mine had a collection of daguerreotypes, and tintypes, and I just fell in love with them, and I put it on the back burner, and I said, one day I'm going to learn how to do that one day. So when I gave up photography for about a year, I got sick of being in front of a computer and not actually making the work. I was spending a lot of time editing in front of the computer, and not spending enough time behind the camera. So I took a class in webplate, and that's what I wanted to do, and found a teacher who had a little bit over 5 years experience and was great, and that gave me a taste of it. And like you said, I went away and had to learn myself and failed for a few months, and eventually got to the point where I was making work that I was happy with. So it's been great. I think it's pushed me in a direction I wouldn't have gone in if I hadn't done this process. It made me think a lot more about how to do things with cameras. You know, I was a bit limited about what I could afford to buy. So, but that was a good thing. So it made me a little bit more creative. And I'm happy with what I'm doing right now, and it's going great. So we'll see.
That's wonderful, Christine. I think that's great. You know, it is ultimately the aesthetic, and I think you answered the question right off the bat, to my mind anyway, by saying, I often call myself a frustrated painter. That's why I use these old lenses, because I love that painterly effect that I can't do myself. So Charles Baudelaire is rolling in his grave right now. I think you answered the question right off the bat. The context that you're bringing, the intention that you're bringing to the process is the very mode that you work in, the very stylistic, the way you work, the aesthetic fits there. And then secondly, you talked about, and I'll just rant just for a second on this, you talked about wet collodion. You put it in the context of you didn't buy a 20 by 24 Chamonix camera and a $7,000 20 by 24 inch lens or whatever, but you put it in the context of I'm limited on the equipment that I have, or however you meant you're limited. But here's the thing, you are limited. We're all limited. In fact, this process is limited. This process forces you to work in a certain context, which I love. One of the things that gives me tremendous anxiety is to open up Photoshop and say, oh my God, the possibilities are endless. I mean, endless. It's like walking, it's like walking into a grocery store here in America. You walk into these supermarkets, and they have these aisles of these stores that like 5,000 different kinds of cereal. Are you kidding me? I want a few choices, but I don't want 5,000, right? So
right.
Collodion gives me this kind of comfort of saying I'm not going to be doing any night action sports photography with collodion. I'm not going to be doing any underwater wet collodion photography. I mean, it limits you in a way that you say I've got to work within these very small, limited parameters. That makes me more creative. That gives me more fuel to push it and to say, wow, I'm being more challenged. You know what I believe the #1 problem in photography today is that students come through my darkroom from the universities and colleges here, say, how many have been in a darkroom before? Raise your hand. Seniors majoring in photography, 2 or 3 hands go out of 12 or 13 people. The #1 problem with photography today is it's too easy, and there isn't made for that.
That's right. I agree.
So embrace those limited, restrictive, oh my God, I can't just Photoshop that. I have to actually think of another way to do it. I can't, that is a good thing, guys. That's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, totally. It's opened up a lot of doors.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I think I've kind of found my voice, whereas I don't think I would have if I was still doing digital.
No. In fact, my relationship with photography, my story says that I was falling out of love with photography. I was losing my relationship with photography. The digital landscape for me was flattened. I got nothing. I'll admit something. Not a whole bunch of photography turns me on today. I can't look at a. There's very few things that I just, next, I'm done. And so my relationship was coming apart in photography, and this process informed my true, real, authentic intentions in a way that no other process could have, and it was a beautiful thing. So I relate with you. I totally understand where you're at. How about somebody else jumping in here?
I share a little bit. I hope you can understand me. I just saying slowly. So I'm trying to, I'm in George Eastman House now to do research about the early history of photography. So I'm trying using white collodion, paper negative, those kind of things, albumin, like you mentioned about those things. But one thing is really make me to do this researcher is that I don't want to be a slave. How to say that? Like follow Canon, Nikon, those names, and they never stop to give you the new product. They upgrade everything, You make money hardly, but you spend money easily, and you need to follow all your life, and just pretend I'm a photographer, I'm an artist, like those kind of things. So I spent a lot of money to buy the equipment, I have all of the brown color lights, but after that, I going back. What's the photography come from? And another thing is really interesting when after I make collodion pictures, white collodion pictures, no matter negative or positive. So I realized no people can, people just want to show other people's more light, more interesting, more people wants to pretend who I am.
Yes.
Nobody pretend in 15 seconds. They pretend like you obliged. It's a pump. Okay, so nobody. If I take a lot of picture of people, so I can through collodion pictures to see people inside.
Yes.
That's really interesting. It's no way. It's like daguerreotype. You can do the same thing.
Yes.
But it's like just like two process. You can use long time exposure, and to let people showing them inside. It's really interesting. I just share a little bit like.
Yeah. No, it's Andy. You bring up two really good points. The first one about being indebted and basically enslaved financially. Look, I don't have to upgrade my hard drives. I don't have to upgrade my software. I don't have to upgrade my CF cards. In fact, like Andy says, I'm going the other way. All my lenses are from the 1860s and 70s. I don't need to upgrade any of those. I don't need another camera. I don't need another hard drive. I don't need any of that stuff. Everything that I have here is going to work perfectly for years and years and years, another 100 years. Secondly, the point you make about the depth, the ability for, or the ability collodion has basically to kind of expose the soul. Well, as most of you probably know, since you're here in the Studio Q show, I'm working on a Native American massacre site project right now. So here in the Western United States, the Native Americans were very, very sensitive about having their portraits made. With what process? With this process. Why were they sensitive about this process? Because just like what Andy just said, it looked like their soul, it looked like a piece of them, literally, physically, spiritually, was put on that glass or metal plate, and it freaked them out. Freaked them out. And that's the same kind of emotional response that I get on my modern portraits today even. not in the negative way, but in the powerful emotional way. So I totally agree with you, Andy. I think those two reasons alone, if you want to talk about practical reasons, wet collodion is incredibly practical. No upgrades, no hard drives, no new camera every 6 months for multiple thousands of US dollars at least, multiple thousands for a camera, and it just keeps going every 6-8 months. I can barely keep up with the phone stuff, right? I can barely keep up with keeping my phone up to date, right? So that's a practical reason. The personal reason, from what I heard Andy say, was he makes a lot of portraits, and just like me, and it resonates with me deeply, I reveal something about that person through that portrait that isn't readily seen in real life. You know, it transcends photography in a way. It goes more into painterly, like Christine, like a painterly kind of thing. It's, you know, you're working with your hands. You've got all this stuff going on. You've got these incredibly long exposures. The sitter has to cooperate with you. I often say, I don't create these photographs. I co-create them with the sitter. I'm not doing this. He is. You know? I did shave his head and wax it down with oil, but still, it's a co-creation of the image, right? Just asking someone to get hook a head brace up to their head and say, hang in there for 10 seconds, stare right here, and try to empty your mind. Try to think of nothing. And for people that actually kind of meditate or know how to do that in just a few seconds, it's incredible what they look like on that plate when they come out. Incredible! It's moving. It's moving. I've had people come to tears in this darkroom, literally. Look, you don't get that with a lot of things in the world today. You just don't. And so, very good points. Next.
Okay, Gwen, I'll speak up. You hear me?
Good to go, Jeff. Good to go. We hear you. Good to go.
Thanks. I agree with Christine. I completely agree with that. I came from a background in graphic design, and I studied photography back before the digital age, and I would spend a lot of time in the darkroom. And then I graduated into painting, and I'm also a frustrated painter. I often said if compliments were dollars, I would be a millionaire. And one day I was using my camera as a sketchbook, and I realized that the pictures were more interesting to me than the paintings ended up being. So I started going down that road, and that led me into being a wedding photographer for a decade, and that was a nightmare. I mean, it was great. I made a lot of money, but it wasn't fulfilling to me. And so that led me down a road of going back to being an artist again. I wanted to be back to the place where I was producing work that I enjoyed, that fulfilled me. And I went and I studied with John Coffer for a week. And I had my photograph made years ago by Bob Szabo at a Civil War reenactment, and that's what started this path. Yeah. So I studied with John, and that's been almost 3 years ago now. So I'm really enjoying it. I enjoy the intimacy that it gives me with my sitters or people, or even with a landscape, even with a tree. I feel like a closeness. I see it differently. It changes the way I see things. Yeah, because
you're more contemplative. I think this is a very good, very important part here, because of Jeff, what it takes to set up, prepare a plate, bring all your chemistry, bring your darkroom, get everything in place to get your camera in that one location, hoping that the light's right, hoping that you get this break, hoping that the wind doesn't come up or a dust storm, hoping it doesn't rain or snow, and you get this one moment to make this 30-second or 2-minute or 5-minute exposure of this scene, and you've invested so much in it. You are connected to that. You are involved in that in a way no other process can give you. Absolutely. You're feeling emotion.
And coming from being a wedding photographer, where I'm shooting 1,000, 1,500 images in an afternoon, and then I have to go back and I don't have time to think about. I was pretty good at being creative on the fly, but it's quick. It's run and gun. You have to be fast. and that was good training, but it got tiring very quickly because I didn't get to put the time into the images that I wanted to.
Yeah.
I couldn't concentrate on each image. Now I go out and I say, if I can make one good image in a day, I'm great. I'm good.
That sometimes you don't even get that. And I'll tell you, you were a wedding photographer, right? I never did any commercial photography. I worked as a long time as a photojournalist for newspapers and magazines and publications, and I had a great career in that. I was a photographer in the military. I was a combat photographer in the Army. I did other things in photography. I was a forensic photographer for the government. I did many different things, but I never did get into the commercial wedding scene. But I will tell you this, not to poo-poo on your wedding photography, but think about this too, Jeff. And this is kind of funny, but it's kind of serious too, right? Think about this. All those wedding photographs, you got to remember that 54% of those photographs are going to be destroyed because of the divorce rate in America. There's no need for that. So over half of your work is thrown away.
That's a good point.
And being digital, it just gets stashed on a hard drive and you never see it again. No one ever looks at it. No one makes prints. Let me tell you a quick story. Have anyone ever heard of an EMP, electromagnetic pulse? EMP. It's when the sun has these what's called coronal mass ejections, these huge off-gassing of radiation, and it comes by, it goes into space, and in 1839 the Earth got hit with one, or 1859 maybe, 39 or 59, I don't know which. And it was big enough that would it have happened today, it would have taken down the entire grid system of electrical grid system. Any hard drive or camera or floppy hard drive or CF card or anything like that you have, wiped out in a heartbeat. I read this article about a French writer wrote a year or two ago that said this is the black age for photography. In 1,000 years from now, there will be no images from this time period because of the EMP that's coming, and it'll wipe out all the photographs, right? But guess what? Our photographs will survive. Prints will survive. But prints have a tendency to fade, and, you know, especially albumin prints, but we have some today. But the idea is that between Jeff's 54% loss in the wedding photography business and this EMP digital stuff, I think we're making the right choices, guys. I really do. That's my opinion. Okay, let's do this. Jan, you wanna say something here, buddy? I don't want to put you on the spot. Yeah, go for it, buddy.
So I've started with collodion 3 or 3.5 years ago, and yeah, in my childhood I can remember that I love to take pictures. I have some of my pictures 35 years old pictures from my childhood what I took at that time. And yeah, after many years I returned to photography back 15 years ago maybe, and I started to take pictures digitally. And few years ago, 2004 or 2005, I got such a strange feeling that the digital world is not for me, because as everybody know, if it is something too easy to make, and you have plenty of pictures on your hard drive and or your card in your camera, then it harms then the content of the picture sometimes, not all the time. So I decided to move partially with the medium and tried to take pictures on medium format camera. I bought Hasselblad because I at that time believe that with good technique I can create good pictures, but technically maybe, but it's all the time about the content, you know. So for me was very interesting to look at pictures in some archive or museum, and I can show you something from local photographers. I buy sometimes pictures.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
from my city. I think 100 years old picture, more than 100 years old
What
picture.
city? What city, Jan?
I live close to 150 kilometers from Prague. Yeah, close to Austrian border.
Oh, okay.
Close to Vienna. Yeah, I have 1.5 hour to Vienna and 1.5 hour to Prague.
Oh,
So
okay. So
yeah,
okay. Are you
yeah.
are you in Austria?
Yes, I am quite often in Austria. Yeah,
But you're in the Czech Republic now.
I live in Czech Republic. Yes.
Okay, cool.
And
Prague photo shooter.
yeah.
I taught there. I taught there.
Yes, you told me last time. So, and I was so excited about the quality of pictures from that time, and for me it was very interesting to get know how they did it. Yeah, how it is possible that these pictures have survived and are in brilliant quality. And this was for me the reason to look for these processes. And then I have found some I have read a lot of on the internet and have found some let's say tutor or man who taught me this process, and I started 2012 to do it by myself. And why? Yeah, the reason is that the process is something what gives you what gives you something more than other processes. You have to slow down, you know, and to think more about the content, like when you shoot on film. And the process itself for me is really magic, because I cannot describe it. I don't do it definitely only for reason to be different or to show I shoot on collodion. It is something to what is not done by everybody.
Yeah.
So this is definitely not my aim to do it. Yeah, my aim or my reason is that it brings something what you can't describe. And also when I look at portraits, I was able to create. Some of them are really amazing, and I cannot imagine it on other medium than on collodion.
Exactly.
And this is maybe what is still for me the reason to stay, continue, and understand the process. And as you have said, it is not about to went through one workshop and then teach it. Definitely
No,
not. You have to understand it and do it. Yeah. So
yeah, we'll get into this. But if you're looking to make money, this isn't. I mean,
yeah,
there's an avenue to make money with this, of course.
I have, yes.
But it's
Sorry.
not. Yeah, it's a bad choice for people to come in to try wanting to make money.
I have forgotten a very important thing, because I do it beside my main job, as you know, maybe from the last time.
Yeah.
And I am thinking about to do it also, let's say, commercially. But because yeah, it is for me the first reason is to be more motivated. I mean not to be motivated to take pictures commercially, but you know what I mean. Yeah, if you have no income and you are minus thousands of dollars, it is a little bit frustrated.
Yeah.
And I know that if I may compare my work with other work taken on collodion, I think it's plus minus comparable, and I think it's not impossible to do it also on business way, because
we're gonna We're going to
Yeah.
talk about that. We're going to talk about that. I appreciate you sharing that, and you've spurred some ideas and some thoughts that I have about it as well. We're going to talk about that. First, thanks for everyone sharing, by the way. I appreciate it. First, let's answer a couple of questions. I got the Q&A up over here. Scott, I haven't lost you. Robert, I haven't lost you. And Barbara, I'm going to get to you there just a second. Christine asked a question about tin types, ferrotypes or aluminum. I'll say this about, let's talk about verbiage real quick. Christine, when you're talking about tin types, are you talking about aluminum or actual ferrotypes, metal plates that are covered and baked in asphaltum?
Well, I was talking about, I read a discussion recently that I was comparing aluminum with baked asphaltum, asphaltum covered whatever, I guess, tin. I don't know what they're talking about.
They're metal plates, but you can call them ferrotypes or tin types, yeah.
Right. And someone just said that the aluminum has a tendency to, it's more susceptible, not a stable kind of metal, and it'll expand and contract easier over time. So they're saying that, you know, the collodion or varnish is going to crack easier. So in 150 years, you're not going to have the same quality image that we have from the old baked asphaltum-covered types. And I just don't know. So I was curious what you think about that.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Thanks for bringing that up, actually. Those are the kind of things that we want to have discussions about in here, I think. My thoughts are this. I totally agree with the actual base. The aluminum is more susceptible to those kinds of environmental changes, no doubt about it. I mean, no question about that. But here's what I'm concerned about the aluminum, or the alumatype. I call them alumatypes to distinguish them from tin types or ferrotypes, especially in these conversations. I don't mind people calling the aluminum tin types if they want, because tin types back in the day were made out of metal. They weren't made out of tin, so it's a misnomer then. Why can't it be now? Blah, blah, blah. But here's my bigger concern. Not the aluminum. It's what's in that baked anodized material on the aluminum. What is that? And what will those properties look like in 100 years from now? So when I take, I don't have any tin types right here handy with me, some metal. When I bake a tin type or a ferrotype, that material, that metal, that iron sheet is stable for, we know, for a long, long time. I mix that asphaltum up and bake it on the metal plate. I know that asphaltum is stable. I've got many, many images over here from the 1860s and 70s that look like they were made yesterday. So my concern is not so much the aluminum, but the anodized black material. What will happen with that in 100 years versus, I know the baked asphaltum ferrotypes or tin types, the original ones, are good to go. We know that. We have proof of that. That's the big thing with everything nowadays. It's really funny to me how, and this isn't you, Christine, I'm talking about people in general when they talk about things like this. Archivability is the topic we're talking about right now. It's really funny to me how people seem to get their emotions worked up about varnish. You know, oh, I hate this varnish, and this varnish isn't any good. And they're talking about these kind of techniques to preserve their photographs for the next 100 or 200 years. And then you look at the photographs, and their photographs are, you know, a basketball in the front yard and their car parked in the driveway and stuff like this. It's like, you know what? We need to straighten our priorities out first. I don't think you need to worry about preserving those things until you have something worth preserving. You know, I don't want to be an ass here, but I'm just saying, right? So those kinds of archivability or archive questions: is this archival? Is this not archival? What happens? I think they're valid. I think they're very valid. But I only think they're valid in the context of what work are you talking about you're concerned preserving? I mean, because that's a big discussion to have. And I don't mean you, Christine. I mean you, the pronoun, people. That's a big discussion to have about really talking about, you know, Andy's at one of the world's leading conservation places for photography. I mean, the George Eastman House that's it, you know. Then the Getty too, of course. But that's a big discussion to have about archival qualities when people aren't even making work worth talking about making archival. You know what I'm saying? It's a cart before the horse thing, but it's worth having a conversation over. But I was kind of disappointed to see where that whole varnish thing went. A lot of misinformation, a lot of bad information. Gum Sandarak got a bad rap. It's a lack of knowledge. It's a lack of doing the history and the research on that stuff. And my plates, I showed them last time. They're up in Greeley now. I was using shellac in the early 2000s, and I shellacked a lot of my plates with that. And I found that it kind of goes matte. In fact, you know what? I have some samples here. If you go back and look at the video, I don't know how long ago it was a Studio Q show. I did a 3 comparison varnish here. I've got those plates right here. I'll show you what they look like, and we'll look at the date on them. And talk about archival, I'll show you this. So here's okay. Oh wow! This was 21 April of 14. Holy hell! That was almost a year ago. What's going on here, guys? I'm getting scared. This time is going by way too fast. So on the backs of these, I'll show these individually each to you. On the backs of these, I have. This is how I do all my experiments. Number 3, 9-inch. F25 Daroji, 21 April 14, plus fill blacklight gum Sandarak varnish. So the date, all the critical information, and then the actual quality of the varnish. Okay. So there's the gum Sandarak. Here's the modern varnish, the number 2 8-inch F25 Daroji. This is natural. Oh, this is natural light plus bounce modern varnish. So this is a modern varnish plate. I wouldn't expect this to last too awfully long as far as the context of that goes, but you get some idea there. That's the modern plate. And now here's the USB plate. And what I want you to pay attention to here, natural light F25 USB shellac. And I'm going to show you this. Up in this top corner here, it's going flat. You see that ridge where it's going flat right here? The top corner of that plate is getting very flat. This is what I've had shellac do to me over the years of using shellac. Or that's why I got away from it. Other than that, it's not bad. But I've got what typically it's called drying dead, where you don't get the alcohol, you don't get the water out of the alcohol with the heat quick enough. Hey, there's Dale.
Hey, oh.
He made it.
Yeah.
Our Canadian friends are in the house.
Wow, that was a long, convoluted process. Sorry.
Yeah. And then we have this, which people are just poo-pooing on. This is asphaltum. And I haven't cleaned this up, forgive me, on the back of a clear glass plate. So I still have asphalt in there. I'll clean it up with alcohol. But this is a clear glass ambrotype that I've actually put the asphaltum on the collodion side without varnishing. So
Green, sorry. So please, which kind of varnish you prefer, please?
Gum Sandarak.
Gum Sandarak.
Yeah.
I use only Gum Sandarak all the time. I didn't try this shellac yet, or I even try it maybe.
Try it.
Maybe yes.
Yeah, try it. Make it. It's easy to make. Try it and see if you like it.
But the only problem is maybe that the plate is then a little bit darker if you use Gum Sandarak, isn't it?
You know, that's a good question. Here's the thing. This whole thing arose from three things. The whole varnish thing arose from 3 things. First was, oh my God, I just poured my varnish on my plate and it dissolved my image. So my image slides off like a big melted gob of wax. Okay, we know the solution to that. That means your alcohol was too strong and your collodion was too old. Okay? So you can add a few drops of distilled water into the varnish and try it again until it stops melting your image. Quick fix, no problem. The second problem, oh my God, the gum sanderac is all spotty and it's got big ridges at the bottom here, called a rollback or a blowback line, right? When you don't perform this.
I don't like it, sorry, and I have still problem how to get rid of it.
Okay, so I teach this method. When you're varnishing your plate, here's the only catch to it. It's really simple. When you wick the varnish off of the bottom, do not lay your plate flat back over the flame. Keep it tilted toward that edge and let gravity pull that off and then wick it off onto a paper towel, and you will get rid of that line completely. Completely. Easy. Then the third thing is, oh my God, gum sanderac is darkening my image. Well, gum sanderac, this is varnish with gum sanderac. It did not darken this image. It's your exposure. It's your chemistry. Does it darken it from when it's dried bright? Yeah, it dries 1.5 stops brighter than a wet plate. You always judge exposure from the wet plate, the plate sitting in the wash. That's where you judge exposure. Can you, if you want, underexpose a half a second to compensate for some of that if you can't quite get a handle on it? Yeah, do it. But gum sanderac, the three problems, the melting the image, the blowback lines, and the speckles and dust people get on it, and then ultimately the darkening, as they call it, they're all very simple and easy to fix, and they're really not gum sanderac's problem, to be honest with you. This is what kind of irks me the most. It's the pilot error. It's the person driving that train that's wrecking it. Davide, you have some?
Yeah. You showed the plate with the asphaltum. That in this period, that is my favorite way to black a clear glass. And
me too.
I find it is lovely. Because I like the picture reversed in the right way, and I love the texture and the color of the picture, you know, with the black asphaltum at the back.
The color is kind of a red-brown, a warmer color.
Beautiful.
It's a different color.
Beautiful.
It's a different color than KCN. It's a different thing. It is, and it's beautiful.
And you said there's some people that is, you know, they don't agree this way of.
Yeah.
How come?
Here's my philosophy. I'll be long gone and dead. So, you know, dig up the YouTube video and watch me. I'm dead. I don't care. Here's my philosophy.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. But what I don't understand is what they are criticizing. I don't know. Why are they critics on that method? What is wrong? It is.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're asking. What the critics are saying, or a critic, what this person is saying is, we have evidence from the 19th century. Hold on. Hold this thought. I'm going to show you some evidence. Because I love facts. I'm a big science guy. I don't like this kind of anti-intellectualism, and my opinion is just my opinion, and it's God gave it to me, and it means everything. Let me show you some proof here. Hold on.
That's why we are here. That's it.
As you can imagine, I have a tiny collection of old photographs. That probably surprises you, right? Now, I have quite a few old photographs. Here's a really nice image from the 1860s. This is a very, very thin piece of metal. It's called a chocolate. It's a chocolate tintype. It's very brown, almost paper thin, almost so thin that it's paper. Okay, that's not the evidence I'm showing you. I'm just showing you one of these. The corners are clipped on all 19th century images to get them into the photo albums, right? So I have a lot of this stuff. I collect this stuff. Here's the evidence. So this little guy came to me, beautiful, beautiful plate. I saw it, was like, yes, I want that because I love this. This is very stylistically my style of image. The man looks just wonderful. It's a beautiful photograph. Guess what happened when I took it out of its case? Guess what happened? Oh boy, look at this, guys. Oh my God, are you serious? Yeah, I'm serious. There you go. 1860s, asphaltum on the collodion side of the back. There it is, living in the flesh. I'm holding it. Did kind of a crappy job because there's a little bit of see-through there, but there it is.
A good philosophy is whatever works.
As long as you won't outlive it. That's the philosophy. I don't want to have to answer to all my claims. No, I don't make claims that are ridiculous. I've been in this a long time. I've seen a lot of images. I've tried a lot of things. Yeah, it's my opinion. Do I have clinical studies and double, triple blind studies on? No, I won't call it science, but I'll call it pretty good, strong anecdotal evidence that and if I'm wrong about something, I even say in the video, I say in the asphaltum video, look, if you want to varnish the collodion side and then asphaltum and look through the glass, fine, do that. That'll take care of all the problems. But let me give you my philosophy on this. I say this held up well because this is the very same material that's put on the ferrotypes, the asphaltum. We know it's inert to collodion. Collodion's inert to it. Or it's inert to collodion. We know that because we've made hundreds of thousands of tintypes over the last 170 years. We know asphaltum is inert to that. So why can't we put it on collodion just in the opposite way? That's my question. And this was something I did this. I mean, I started doing this stuff, years and years and years ago. I was playing with that stuff because I really loved it. I really loved looking through the glass, reversing that image, and positives laterally reverse everything, so everything's turned around. So if you can look through the glass and see it as the original image, sometimes, in certain contexts, that's really important. So I was offering that not as a workflow technique necessarily, but just as an option, like for people that cannot stand to see the tiniest bit of specks on their varnished image. This alleviates everything. For people that want this deep, rich brown color, and the black's really black, and the white's really white, and all that stuff, it's a great solution to the problem. I'm just offering some solutions. Do I know that aluminum plates will go bad in 100 years? No, I don't know. They might last 10,000 years. Do I know that this asphaltum will not hurt the collodion? No, I don't know that. I'm assuming, since I have one, and then I've been doing it for at least 10 years. I have plates here that are at least 10 years old with it like that. They look like they were made yesterday. So, to each his own. Your mileage may vary, as they say. So
yeah.
It seems like
I began to use the asphaltum after I saw your great video, and I really found all what I needed to do because the color, because of the easy way to pour it, and
Davide?
Yeah.
Sorry for your interruption.
No.
I take picture on glass, on clear glass mostly. Let's say 90% of my all pictures are taken on glass because I love it. I started with tin because it was so much easier for me to start with, because you don't need to paint the backside. but yeah, glass is my decision.
Glass is the safer choice. Glass is no doubt the safer choice for sure.
Mine too. Mine too. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Mine too.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I have also tried to make my first pictures on black glass. I have found one supplier here, a local supplier, and it looks also very nice, but it's quite expensive. So I stay with clear glass, which is very very I say cheap. If I its price is very good, and this is, but the price is not the reason. But clear glass is for me a very good medium.
Yeah, the ultimate surface would be black glass. Properly made black glass will give you the most sheen, the most highest quality reflective properties, and the least damaging or potentially damaging to the image, because you're not putting asphaltum on, you're not backing it with anything, you're not doing anything. So that's the ultimate to me is the black glass. Those were the most expensive in the 19th century. Those were the most coveted. They obviously look the best. I mean, it's just the ultimate product. It is.
I wanted to ask which kind of asphaltum do you use? I would like to try, or I would like to use this asphaltum in the future.
I use
Could you send some link? Or?
Yeah, I use the same that Quinn uses, because in his great video, that's it, exactly that. Because I bought it from a supplier in the United States.
Where can I get it in Europe? Thank you, Quinn. Is it possible to get?
I think it's.
Where did you get it?
Yeah, I think I never checked it here in Europe, but I think that it's quite easy to find, because it is a asphaltum that uses for print machines, something like that.
Mirrors. They back mirrors with it. It's very common. You're absolutely correct.
And it is you know, a can like this it will at least years.
My problem is how to try to find it. What's the, let's say, the right name in my mother tongue to ask for it?
I'll do some research and help you find it. This is what
I'll try to see. Yeah.
This is what it looks like in its raw form. You see how thick it is?
Yeah, that's incredible.
And then you thin it down, and it's just
you have to heat up somehow this material, or you directly put it on the glass. Yeah.
Very simple. You dilute it down with turpentine or white spirits.
Yeah.
And find what works best for your images, the thickness or the viscosity of it, and work it.
Yes.
And the first one you do, it's going to be messy, and you're going to have a bunch of black on the front surface of it. Just take isopropyl alcohol and clean that glass off, and your image is perfect.
Unfortunately, not only the first one is messy. The second, the third, the fifth, and so on.
It can be messy. It can be messy. Work in an area, but this is
absolutely it is.
Could I just jump in here for a minute, Quinn?
Yeah.
Sure.
If speaking with the asphaltum, if we go to the wet plate collodion photography Facebook page on February 5th, which I guess it was just yesterday or the day before, I see Chris Honeysett.
Oh yeah.
Put a great clip on there where he's using, for those who are familiar, an air compressed car paint sprayer or paint sprayer used typically in the auto industry.
Yeah.
And he's spraying that with asphaltum, and I thought that was pretty cool. I asked him a question how he keeps the gums from heading up, but I guess he hasn't got back to me yet because that stuff is nasty. He said he uses the turpentine just to spray it through. Oh, sorry, I see that down the bottom there. Yes, indeed. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry, Chris. Anyway, I thought that may interest add to the discussion. So thank you.
You know what? I think Chris has very large plates. He does 40 by 50 centimeter plates, landscapes in California. Chris came to a workshop a year ago, January, here in Denver. He's a good guy. He was a commercial photographer making over $400,000 a year. and almost $500,000 US dollars a year until 2008. I guess the whole market crashed for him then. I was in Europe. I missed the whole damn recession.
Oh, you're lucky. 2008 was the perfect storm here in North America for sure.
Yeah, and I'm glad I was gone, actually.
Yeah, those of us who were in the industry then know all about it. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. It would add.
He does very large plates, so that makes sense to spray it rather than pour it. But for the smaller plates, this is what I use. This is my asphaltum jug that I just dilute down. This thing will do 50 or 100 8x10s, that size of just cut down with turpentine, and I mean I can get so much mileage out of that. So think about it. Nothing is for sure. Nobody knows anything. When people tell you something, take it with a grain of salt. Even for me, I try to be authentic and honest about everything and say, this is what it is. This is how, this is how we're going. This is what. We're trying. This worked. That didn't work. This is where we're at in this state of affairs. This is what we're at in this state of affairs. Whatever we're doing, I try to be honest about it. And nobody really knows anything because a lot of this stuff only time will tell. Will this stuff be archival? Will that last? Will this work? Will that? We don't know. We don't know. And to be honest with you, I think at the end of the day, I wouldn't get too worked up about it. Until we get this dearth of incredibly important and serious work that needs to be preserved, and I want to be in on helping them preserve it because to this point I haven't seen much of that. So I'm gonna hold back a little bit. So let's talk a little bit about business. I want to briefly discuss this because I think it's important to realize. Jan was talking about making money, opening a commercial portrait studio, or doing. I'm going to give you some contemporary examples and what's happened in that market, and then share a couple of things that I know about that's been offered to me, and then finally I just want to briefly talk about China and what that may afford Europeans and North and South Americans. They just told me in chat that the Chinese have been watching this. The folks in Hangzhou, Mr. Li and Stephen, the collodionists there, and they just inducted 4 people into the TCCA. They're getting some really good things going over there that we'll all be able to get involved in, and they'll be able to get involved in what we're doing. This will open up a whole bunch of opportunities for people. Believe me, it's going to be unreal. But opening a portrait studio, the business side of this is twofold. How can you make money in wet collodion photography? And again, I want to make a big disclaimer here. This is my opinion. This isn't gospel. I don't want to have people thinking that what my opinion is I hope there's some credibility to it, but I'm just being open and honest that this is my opinion about experiences in my life working in this process and with the people and the corporations that I know, what they've offered, what we've done, and what's possible, really. So the first thing I want to talk about is Michael Schindler's photo studio in San Francisco, the Tintype Studio. He was the first one that opened one of those, and I'd worked with Rayco for a while back I was in Europe at the time, and he was teaching there, and they bought a bunch of books, and I was helping a couple of technicians at some times, and so they got a good program running. And what he ended up doing, he ended up leaving and opening up a storefront, a photo booth in San Francisco. You walk in, they were all 4x5 aluminum or stainless steel. I guess you could get glass, but they were either aluminum or stainless steel. 4x5 inches. It was a fixed camera. It was a modern camera with, I think there were even ring strobes. There were strobes and maybe a ring strobe around the lens, and then a couple of strobes. It was a set exposure, everything. They just walked in, they popped it, and you got this kind of strobed collodion look. You guys know what it looks like. It's a blend between film and collodion. Some people love it, some people hate it. It varies. It's kind of weird sometimes. It looks surreal. So he had it all set up, and I guess they were doing, I don't know, I heard, 60 or 100 portraits a month or something crazy like that. There you go. There's a link there. You can see that, yeah. Jan, can you see? Everybody should be able to see his. Jan just sent that link over. Yeah, there you go. This kind of really super clean. Here, I'll pull it up on them. I'll pull it up in the chat here. Share my screen. Entire screen. Share. Boom. So, infinite mirrored loop and Google Hangout. Here we go. So this look and feel here. You can almost see, if we were to look at the catch of the light in the eye here, you can almost see, here's the bounce card. Can I zoom in on this? Whoa, where'd it go? Holy hell, what did I do here, guys? There it is. So you can almost see the setup here. Here's the main light on this side, the fill light, and the strobe. He's got a little bit of side light here, separation from the hair and stuff. Maybe this one. Little different setup here. He's got an umbrella here and a bouncer here. All you have to do is look at the eyes on these, and you can see what the lighting configuration is. Same thing here. Strobe. You see this little dot right there? That's a ring light around the actual camera, and here's the strobe that popped. And then he had a little bit from this side. So that's what he did. He made these portraits, and I don't know exactly what happened, but he closed his shop down. He closed the business down. I don't know why. I don't know if rents were too high or whatever, but he went out of business. I talked to him. He closed probably a year ago next month, I think, and I talked to him probably about this time last year, and he just said that the business was too tough to do. And I don't know. I didn't go into it with him, but I would imagine that San Francisco is very expensive, so I would imagine that has something to do with it. I don't know, though. I'm just saying. But what I'm saying is that's completely viable in that market. Okay, so it's San Francisco. I think he did okay with it. But the first question to ask is, when you're opening a portrait gallery or a portrait studio, the first question to ask is, where are you? What's your geographic location? Or what's your demographic in the place you're at? You really actually need, what you need to be in is a very high tourist area and or an area that has a history. For instance, here's the first thing I'll tell you. In Paris in 2010, when I did that show, they offered to move me to Paris and put me up in a flat for 2 years and open a studio up and do portraits there for a couple of years. I know you're probably going to hit me in the head and hate me forever, but I turned it down simply for the fact that although it was Paris, I had people standing in lines for portraits, so the business wasn't a problem. The problem with it was it would have ruined this process for me. It would have completely destroyed my love and my passion and my energy for this. I would rather earn my living in other ways. I'm not saying that I haven't earned money commercially from collodion, because I have, but I would rather earn my money other ways. I would rather do digital things or sell books or teach or do things that are non-invasive in my personal space. That's just me. So I turned that down. But very viable. You'd have to be somewhere like Paris. Denver, Colorado, Prague, Czech Republic, Florence, Italy. Probably not. Probably not for a commercial portrait gallery or studio. Now, if you had work that you could get from historical museums or objects to photograph, that's been a big thing lately. This market of photographing objects for galleries, photographing advertising is another big one. I know Tom Burrell did a big thing for Starbucks in wet collodion. Zabo, who was in Jeff, is Zabo here. Jeff knows Zabo. Szabo does a big thing for Jack Daniels every other year, something in collodion, very commercial-oriented stuff. Some other people are doing other things. To give you an idea, so what is that? So if you wanted to pursue a market and you're really not in a place to do a portrait studio, what's another avenue? The other avenue is obvious, is commercial advertising. This thing, if you put a little portfolio together and you go out and pitch this with some decent work, you'll have more work commercially in collodion that you probably even more than you want to handle. I get solicited right out of the blue. I mean, I get approached probably because my presence online, of course, but people, I maybe told this story before, but Russian GQ magazine, the Russian GQ, or Vogue, Russian Vogue, sorry, Russian Vogue offered to pay me $30,000 for 3 days, 10,000 US a day, to go to the desert, Palm Springs, California, which is about a 10-hour drive from here, and do a shoot for Levi's, Russian Levi's. 10 grand a day, 3 days. They accepted the contract. I was going to do it because it's only 3 days. It's not up in a portrait studio for 2 years and just like mad insane about doing this. It's 3 days and good money. I was going to accept it, and lo and behold, they wanted me to pack up and do it within the next week after they accepted that, and I couldn't do it. We all know that it takes some time to plan out and do those kinds of things. And anything in white collodion you just don't do on the fly, right? I mean, that's just the way it is. But so commercial advertising work, and there's people in this forum right now and watching us for sure that have tons more experience in commercial work, know much more about commercial work than I will ever know. They know more on the tip of their finger than I know in my whole essence about that. So I don't know anything really about pursuing that. I do know because I've been approached enough times, and I know enough people that's working in collodion that do work commercially that is very viable. So businesses in collodion, I would say, would lean more toward the commercial aspect, minus the portraiture stuff. I don't think you could do portraiture work full-time in just any location. I think you would either have to incorporate that studio into bringing objects in to photograph, but the problem's going to be, at the end of the day, really what you need to be is mobile. You need to be out there. You need to be able to go on scene. You need to be able to, work with the light and all that kind of stuff to do these real serious commercial jobs. I think it's viable. I've never pursued it because...
Can I add something here, Quinn? It's Dale.
Sure.
I want to step back and I don't know the names of everyone here, but there's certainly one individual that's two down on the bar for me from who was the artist who like me didn't like to paint or whatever the case is and became a wedding photographer, but he could probably add much more to it than I. My background is commercial, 20-some years. And of that time, I earned my living primarily for 15 years, real good years, as a stock photographer exclusively. The one thing I noticed and I want to get to the dollars and cents, and I think this is important because there's this illusion that whether you're shooting digital, whether you're shooting film, or whether you're going to be shooting collodion from a business perspective, it's a lucrative industry. You're only going to get out of it what you put into it. It's a hell of a lot of hard work regardless of how you go about it. Now, with respect to the portrait thing, you started to allude on it. If you're not in Paris, you're going to have a tough road to hoe. And I think you're absolutely correct. And what happens, though, if from my research right here in my little neck of northeastern North America, where very few people are doing collodion, you would think because there's no supply that there would be a demand. There's not, because we have to create the demand. Having said that, though, what I am seeing from those who are doing portraits are coming in and they're doing these portraits for $40, $50, maybe $75 for a session. Well, I want to put something out there. If you want to run this as a business, you've got to reverse engineer this thing. How much money are you going to need to maintain your business for a year, and how much do you want to earn from that business to earn a living? So a rather modest income might be $50,000, $60,000 a year. Well, you're going to have to make 3 times that to be able to manage and run your business and pay your taxes and your insurance and all that other good stuff. So you're going to have to make gross sales or revenues in the tune of $200,000 a year. My math is bad, as you can tell. So then start looking at how many portraits am I going to have to sell at $40 to make 200,000 sales. Very quickly it becomes evident that, you know, unless you're a Superman and you can spit out 50 of these things a day, it's not going to happen. Your other option, and this is the option, this is the point that I want to emphasize, is no individual, and it's hurt me in my business, I'll tell you, but I firmly am entrenched in this belief: no individual is bigger than the industry. And if we start undercutting everyone, and I don't care if it's in digital film or collodion, if we start undercutting one another, the next thing you know that happens is all of a sudden it's that whole value thing. If there's no value perceived with the delivery of your product, then there's no value expected. If you come in with a much higher price and you create an experience for the person that you want to photograph, the portrait, all things equal, you got to create the goods. But if you're creating the experience and you're providing the perception of creating art, then you can command the price to earn a living. But if you're doing it for $40 in a corner store somewhere, don't give up your day job would be my suggestion. Commercial is a totally different thing. It's a totally different gig. And when you say, yeah, you need $5,000, $10,000 a day, that's probably is very true, because you're going in with assistance, and beyond all the mechanical process, you're coming at it with 15, 20 years worth of experience. And like a lawyer, you can either pay $100 an hour for 5 hours, or you can pay $500 for 1 hour and hopefully get the same result. But we all know that's not true, and I'll pay the $500 for the 1 hour every time. So I just wanted to add those points, that there is no illusion here. You can't go at this business, and you can't go at it as a lark or as an avocation. If you're going to try to earn an income, to earn your living from this, you've got to do your homework and go in it with a business case and a business plan well before you ever start putting a shingle out on your door.
Very, very good points, and I totally agree with all that. And that's wisdom that I couldn't share with you. And I know Dale's got a lot of experience there, and he's up in northeastern Canada. He's all the way over in Nova Scotia, so he's dangling out there in the Atlantic right now, up there in northeast.
Freezing our ass off today, and right around me in about 150 centimeters of snow, I might add.
Here we are in Denver, Colorado, 70 degrees Fahrenheit, 21 degrees Celsius, and sunny and beautiful. It's gorgeous.
Can you see that?
Is that your age or your IQ, Dale? I don't know which one that is. The end of the day, I totally agree with what you said. And the end of the day, price points on these things. And I know a lot of people are going out and doing portraits now, and commission portraits. And I think that's something you can do that's very viable, that you can earn. You're not going to make a living doing it part-time necessarily, but you can definitely do it anywhere you're at, especially for events. But I'm with Dale. Man, and no slam on the old Civil War dudes. I mean, those guys, you know, they lend a lot to the process, and they, you know, they just had different goals and ambitions than I do, or than we do. So that's a whole different subject. But no slam on them. But man, to only charge $35 or $45 for a quarter plate or half plate, when you've invested, if you're actually making good photographs, you've invested a lot more than that into this process than $35 or $40 US for a quarter plate. I'm not trying to tell you how to fix your price, but definitely let's be reasonable, and like Dale says, don't kill the other people in the market that are trying to make this happen. So, you know, for me, my whole plate portraits in Paris went for about $500 US per plate to have your portrait made on whole plate, and that was my take, not the gallery's take. So you can kind of extrapolate from there. So, you know, I'm not saying don't price yourself out of it if you're going to do it, but definitely don't kill other people. I mean, don't do it for $35 or $40. That's all I'm saying. I mean,
yeah, you know, that was my primary point as well. No photographer is bigger than the industry, and I am entrenched in that, and I firmly believe that we owe it to each other to maintain a certain integrity within the work that we produce, but at the same time to respect my neighbor down the street and my friend across the other side of the country or the continent. It's an industry, and it's one. Believe me, as a stock photographer, in 2008 we had the recession, we had the digital maze, and then we had the iStock. And I see it's Jeff, and he probably felt that pressure as well in the wedding world with the digital camera and the weekend warriors, or I prefer to call them weekend rebels because they all shoot Canon. But it killed.
There's nothing wrong with Canon. Come on.
Yeah, in the wrong hands. I'm all for it though. It's evolution, and I don't slash anyone.
Yeah. And that tiny family that was really actually huge in your world, Dale, is very literally tiny in our world. So anything you're talking about, which are very good points, will be exacerbated 1,000 times in this little collodion world. We're all going to know one another. Some of us will know some others more than others or whatever, but we're all going to know one another at some point in time. So it's really respect. All I've wanted and all I've tried to do was I just want respect. You know, I want to show respect and get respect. That's all I've ever asked. And man, once you start hitting people in the pocketbook that way, that is probably the ultimate form of disrespect to me. When you start taking their livelihood or their means of income away, even if it's side income, they've invested something, they're spending money on equipment and time and chemistry, and their setup and their experience and buying books and taking classes from Quinn and spending all this money, they're invested, right? So don't take that away from them. And you know, and yeah, let's be honest. Let's make sure, you know, let's help people. I don't want to, better watch my words here. Let's help people prepare for and be successful in those markets as much as we can. Let's support one another. I think that's really important. I'd like to see more support in the community. I'd like to see more, like, and you know, and if people have suggestions for me, man, I'm totally open to that. But I would like to see more support in the community. We can't compete against one another in that context. We can only support one another. We can compete with one another by creating that noise that I was talking about earlier, but to hurt one another financially or to not support one another in a venture they're trying to do, if it's legitimate and, you know, and we're behind it, then part of these groups, part of these this kind of gathering live is to get to know one another and to get to know faces and voices and to know that they're not just written out, man, that guy sounds like a real asshole, and then they meet me and they're like, oh man, you're not so bad, you're kind of funny and weird, and you know, and I mean, that kind of connection is really important for human beings to have. And once we have that, we can start helping one another. And hey, you come in here one month and you say, hey, I just started this project, and somebody over here in this corner of the world says, hey, I want to help you. I can do this or do that. Those are the kinds of supports I think we really desperately need. We need to start having photo critiques, really good, professional, constructive, multi-voiced critiques of work. I think that's really important. Help people get on the right track, help them define their ideas or their concepts, and help them get that down on glass or metal in a very constructive, powerful, communicative way. I think we, yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah.
Maybe it would be nice at the end of today's discussion, share some pictures if somebody has, like me, prepared some pictures to be discussed.
Please.
I would like to share something and maybe discuss what is expected from, let's say, China, or what is your, because you have lots of experiences, what is your opinion or view, what the market is expecting, or
yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, it's good. And I'll close up with this, and then we can do that. Sorry. We can start showing some work if we have some work we want to share, and everybody can get in on that for sure. That would be awesome. Here's China. Here's China in a nutshell. I am excited beyond belief about what will be available, and the opportunity that North and South Americans and Europeans and whomever else, I'm just saying that those continents in the big way, I know some people say Asia and Europe's the same, but those continents, those people working in wet collodion that want to really do something both in the fine art world, potentially in the commercial world, and definitely, you know, the exhibition and sales of work for sure in the fine art world. If you're interested in that, stay abreast, stay connected in here, or connected somehow, and you will see this evolution. This year it will start happening. It's happening right now. You'll see this evolution of China opening up, having exhibitions, inviting Americans, Europeans, North, South Americans, Europeans, others, non-Asian and Asian, of course, people into these shows and having these exhibitions. This is being formed right as we speak. I just did a video yesterday for it. They just had their big meeting yesterday at TCCA. This is happening. What's expected, this is my opinion, what's expected for these shows are coherent pieces or parts of pieces of work in an established, as an established artist, that you're working from a point that you can defend and that you can talk about and that you have connection in, that it's serious work is what we're saying, that it's serious work, and that you can, and if you want to sell it, right? So if you're making a body of work and you want to pick out some pieces, or maybe you'll be one of the ones that you know, go up and you say, hey, I have a whole body of work here. I'd like to present it to TCCA and have an exhibition in Asia. Very highly likely, very possible, absolutely. Group shows, no doubt about it. You'll see group shows coming up this year that we can get involved in, get our work over in China, get exposed. And guess what the great thing about China is? Andy knows this better than anyone. The great thing about China is it's growing spectacularly fast. There's a growing middle class, and there's a large market. There's a large group of demographic that will actually buy art. What a concept that is, right? I mean, coming out of these recessions in America and Europe, and you go to a continent or a country that the people are actually prospering and doing well in certain demographics that are within your demographics for your work, they'll buy your work. I mean, you know, I'm speaking more so than having a show. When's the last time I sold a piece of? Oh, I guess it hasn't been that long. I don't sell a lot of work in America. I mean, I do sell some, but my sales are in Europe and Asia. That's where I sell my work, you know. And so your work will sell great in China. Why? Because and will be respected and viewed and appreciated in Asia. I think geographically, I think people are attracted to difference. I don't think we like to admit it sometimes. I do. I love difference. I love thinking about it, talking about it. I love that tension between like two different things coming together and that little bit of tension in there. I thrive off of that. I love it. Not tension in a bad way, tension in an exciting, invigorating way. Like, this is so new and interesting, right? So when I was in China, I saw that old fisherman's fishing vest, that rain jacket, and I just fell in love with the thing. It was so different. And the Chinese characters on the back, happiness and prosperous, and it was just a wonderful thing to my eyes, my virgin eyes. So I just exploded there. So your work from Europe or the Americas or wherever you might be, going to a culture like Asia, or their work coming to a culture like ours, it's very exciting. It's very different. It's very unique. But it has to be cohesive. It has to have some kind of narrative to talk about that, so you understand how different and unique and how involved and intricate these ideas can be in certain cultures. And you'll get that. I mean, that's kind of where we're at right now. And I guarantee if you keep coming in here every month, there's going to be some months that are going to have huge announcements that are going to be able to get you guys, if you want to participate in these things. And this isn't about money. This isn't about commerce. This is about connecting internationally, educating, promoting, and connecting artists in the wet plate world, all over the world, with China. I think China is our best bet to have anything substantial hook on and grab, and to really get people going about this. In the commercial side of things, I think China is, I mean, man. I hope I'm okay to share this, because I'm going to share it. The alternativeprocesses.org. What's that, Andy?
It's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission.
I did a group show at 2013 in China about the alternative process, I invited the 11 photographers from United States, Canada, and Japan, Korean.
Oh,
and
nice!
Include me in our gallery in Heilongjiang province. So,
very nice.
Yeah, that's the website I did the group show. So
very cool. Thanks for sharing that, Andy. That's wonderful.
I agree with you. There's a really big market and a lot of potential for alternative process.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for reiterating that. I'm glad that you feel the same way. It's and you can expound on this a little bit. But what I just said, is that your feeling as well? I mean, you're the leading expert on this. Obviously, you're Chinese and you know a lot more about China than I do. Expound a little bit more on that, if you don't mind, Andy.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. So this idea of do you know about the collective in Asia? Do you know about this, Andy?
About what?
The Collodion Collective Asia.
No,
the Collodion Collective. I'll send you a link on it. I'm working with the Chinese people in Hangzhou and Shanghai. And we have galleries and really big important people involved with that organization, like people with power and money, the people that you need in those types of organizations. And and we're forming up, and I'm trying to be the liaison. That's all I'm really doing. I'm just the conduit. I'm trying to help them connect to North and South Americans and Europeans, and to in the wet collodion world, to form this kind of group that we can share information, work, have art exchanges, exhibitions, sales. This is my greatest hope for this process, is to end up having people focused on projects, making work, exhibiting that work in Asia, and selling that work if they can, and vice versa for China. China making that work, showing that work in North and South America and Europe, and selling that work, right? So this kind of this exchange of helping artists and helping people in this process. I don't know if I'm allowed to share this, but I'm going to. Mr. Li Gray, the man that I'm working with in China, in Hangzhou, just told me yesterday the TCCA, the Collodion Collective Asia, right? That's what I call it, TCCA. It's easier acronym. They just picked up. The TCCA was just formed when I went over there in November. This is February. The end of January, they just picked up a commercial account to do 16 by 16 inch portraits for this big corporation in China. And stuff like this. I mean, this hasn't even, there's the commercial aspect, the fine art aspect, and there's nothing wrong with compartmentalizing these things and making money when people need revenue to work in the process, to grow organizations, whatever it is. If there's a market there and they want what we have and we can collectively as a group provide that, why not? I mean, that's a valid thing to my mind to do. And then the fine art aspect, just producing the work, showing the work. I mean, I've got work in China right now showing. I've got work in, it's kind of, I posted the other day, I got work in China showing, I got work in Brussels showing, and I got work in northern Colorado showing. 3 continents. I don't know if it'll happen again.
Okay, thank you very much, Quinn. As I can see and hear, it would be for me better to stay on my own way, on my own path, and not to invest my energy and money in my reconstruction of my house, and then build up some local portrait studio and became something like portrait maker. This is not my aim, and I think it can then harm your feeling what you would do, because how to explain it? Yeah, not to be too much influenced by money motivation. Yeah, to stay on your way, and I will do it. Yeah, I think if I think I'm thinking about it realistic, in my local business can be good but not in my house. I can offer it as a service to go somewhere outside to bring my stuff and invest money in some small car and take my stuff out and show people what I can do.
Yes.
And maybe this is I believe that this is much better way.
Your business will increase tenfold by being mobile. What you'll do one portrait in your home studio versus 10 portraits mobile. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. I mean, it just will.
Yeah.
Not even portraits, whatever you might be photographing.
I'm going to do it soon this year, maybe spring. I will start to do it. Actually, I made 3 or 5 portraits today. And outside was -5 degrees Celsius, but I'm able to manage it. So it was really great experience to do it in my house. I do it for my friends for free, and my local project is to take portrait on wet plate of people from my city.
Okay, let me give you a quick piece of advice right there. Take that idea, take that portraits of the people in your village, right? Which is awesome. I love that idea. Take that, focus on that, make a body of work of it. Don't charge them anything for it if you don't need to. Build that body of work up. Have it the way you want it. Have yourself invested. Do the intellectual work. Do the research. Do all that stuff. Have that work. Let us help you along with it. Bring it in for some critiques, and maybe you'll show us some here in a minute. Bring it in for a critique. Let us help you. And everyone help one another. But at the end of the day, let's present that to the next open exhibition in China, which will be very, very soon. There'll be several, but let's present these works to people. Let's get you guys connected. Let's get us connected.
It looks great for me, so I would like to share it also maybe next time if it's not time today.
Let's do this, guys. I have to run here in just a minute. Let's plan on this for the next time. I think that there were fruitful conversations here for sure. Let's do this. Let's have next time, and I'll address when I do the little ad for this. I'll address it. So let's put in the idea that let's throw this out. The next March's live show, let's do this. For those of you that want to come back in, bring some work in. Have some work digitized that you can show, that we can share here, and let's have everybody give you some feedback on it. You can give like a 5-minute spiel on it and say, this is what it's about, this is who I am, this is what it's about, this is what I'm working on, these are the ideas and the concepts. If it's just starting, or if it's very mature, or if it's somewhere in between, all good. Bring it in. Let's talk about it. Let's see where the direction might be going, and let's have those conversations, because I would be happy to share a few pieces of the Native American work that I'm doing, because I haven't published really any of that, and I won't until I decided. I really forced myself this time not to publish a bunch of work as I made it. It's really hard. I want to put it online. I want to share it. I get so excited about it, right? But I really held back this time. But I'm more than willing to get some feedback from you guys on my work. I'd love that. I think that would be valuable for me. Can we just answer a couple of questions in the sidebar here real quick? Barbara, I don't know why Barbara couldn't get in this time, but I hope she's still listening, or she can watch this. Quinn, are you applying? This is the asphalt, and they go back a few conversations. Quinn, are you applying this with a brush? If so, what brush or brushes do you recommend? No, I do not apply the asphaltum with a brush. I hold it just like collodion plate. I pour the asphaltum in the middle and work it off and let it drain. Drain until it drips, turn it back over, let it smooth off, and then put it somewhere flat on a flat surface to dry. That's all I do. So no brushes needed, nothing like that. It's very, very simple. The trick here is to find the right viscosity for the asphaltum to move, to cover. If you want a kind of a light chocolate brown, like this this chocolate tintype that I showed you, if you want that kind of color, do a thin coat, and it'll go kind of a chocolate color. If you want it really dark, make it a thick coat, thicker. If it gets too thick, it'll dry and crack. So you don't want it too thick, and you don't want it too thin. So the idea is to find that, but you got to find that balance on your own. My photographic journey began in the early 1970s. This is Barbara again, but fell to void until I pursued historic photographic processes. That resonates with me completely. After 30 years of shooting weddings, wow, 30 years of shooting weddings, I decided to return to my passion, creating the handmade image. I began my wet plate journey using Quinn's books. Well, thank you, Barbara. I never knew that about you. I wanted to. Oh, good, she's here. Well, Barbara, since you're not in the video feed, let me say this. I totally resonate with you. You began before me. I started in 1982 in photography. You know, when I could say something like, I got my first Polaroid when I was 8 years old, but I think that's cheesy. I don't think kids know what they're doing, so I don't think it's valid to say that you began photography when you were 10 years old. I began photography professionally in the military in 1982. So that's how long I've been doing it. So after 30 years of shooting weddings, she decided to pursue that fill that void with the historic process. Wonderful, Barbara. Thanks for sharing that. See, you get to learn things about people. I've worked with Barbara for years. I've talked to her. She supported my endeavors and obviously bought my books and stuff like that. So I love to hear personal stories like that. Not that I, excuse me, not that I think people are objects, but they become more human to me. And I love to have this interaction with people like this too, because, like I said earlier, you become more human. You're more, real. You're not this weird thing out there typing stuff and publishing stuff. She said, perfect. I have heard some dip. I have heard some dip and also use of. Oh yeah, dipping. Interesting. I don't know about dipping the plate. I guess you could dip that image in asphaltum, right? And then clean this side off. I guess you could do that. Yeah. Interesting. I've never heard that. Okay. There you go. Love the brown. I have a few. Yeah, the chocolate tintypes. Yeah, these are cool. They are. I have a whole bunch of stuff like that. And then Scott Schroeder was in. I never sold a plate. Too shy. I have lack of confidence, I suppose. No, don't lack confidence on selling a plate, man. If that's what you want to do, no reason to be shy about that. Scott says digital can be very sterile. Collodion will always have character. I think we talked about that quite a bit. I totally agree with that. And anything from the artifacts to the temporal confusion, and then Dale has a bunch up here that I didn't get to. Robert Beach, if you're still in here, I have a ton of questions over here, guys, that I've ignored throughout the whole session. I apologize. I use wet collodion because I'm passionate. Oh, what happened? Oh, I use wet collodion because I'm passionate about obsolete technology. That's, thank you for bringing that up, Robert. I'll read the rest of this in a second. Obsolete technology. When Jan was talking, I was wondering, are we pining, or are we just waxing nostalgic? Are we just nostalgic? Is that why we love this process so much? It's like all of us are of a certain age. I don't see anyone in here that's terribly young, to my knowledge anyway. And what I mean by that is like 20 or 25. God, I hope I didn't offend anyone.
You're on your own now.
You hit a certain age and you start thinking, God, I like things like they used to be. I don't like things now. This sucks. Nostalgia, right? Like we long for the good old days, the good old ways. We weren't alive in the 1860s and 70s when this was popular, but I think we might be longing for something more simple. Yeah, our lives are so stressful and hectic. I mean, I read this statistic on stress the other day, guys. We are living day-to-day life. We don't even know. We are living in so much stress. Our bodies don't even recognize it, and we have this low underlying stress that's killing all of us, turning us gray, getting old and wrinkly. All this stress, bald. Yeah, Dale's giving us a little of that. And Jan, I mean, I could probably be bald too if I tried real hard. But this stress, and I think this part of this return to this process, what Robert's talking about, this passion about obsolete technology, I would rephrase that, and I would even put words in his mouth and say, he likes the old, slow, non-complicated stuff better than the complicated, stressful life today. I think that's what he's saying. He says, as a teacher, I love showing this technology to the young people who know Instagram images that will be forgotten and only lost in a few years. Very nice, Robert. Thanks for that contribution. That's a nice little saying there. I hope you heard that. And Barbara said, I began with old Argus camera. Oops, I'm telling my age. Yeah. I just turned 51 a week ago yesterday, I guess. So I'm getting up there too. I'm actually starting to feel age at 50. I really am. It's weird. I don't know how things change, but 50, my whole physical thing started like, oh my God, man, I'm fat. I better lose some weight. So I started losing some weight. And then I said, oh man, God, I'm getting I don't feel so great in the mornings. My mind is 20 years old, right? I'm still 20 in my mind, and my body's getting old, and it won't do what I was able to do in the past.
Well,
your mind.
What's that, David?
Well, you already had a haircut, so.
I already had the haircut. I did. That was the first thing.
Enough.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to have hair. I cut it off, and it was 60 centimeters long, and I gave it to the cancer people. Yeah, I grew my hair out because I was too. I never got my hair cut in Europe. Never got my hair cut in Europe. The process and acts of form of spirituality for me. Very good, Barbara. I think that's very true for a lot of people. Spirituality is another topic we should have a discussion on sometime. I think that's very interesting because I think we all make images dealing with the kind of the spirituality. And whatever, I don't necessarily mean religion or anything like that. I'm just talking spirituality. Stephen from China, he's our interpreter. He speaks very good English. We had our meeting today at Christian Studio and had some really good discussions as well. He doesn't really elaborate. And then another one from Dale, and Dale's already in here, so we're getting down to the bottom. This is Stephen again from China. He said, I tried to get in but couldn't. And today Mr. Lin Lu attended the meeting while Mr. Tong and Mr. Zhu were having their own annual meeting at the same time, but today's meeting was successful, and we're going to organize an activity tomorrow in Shanghai. So again, in live time, as we're all sitting here, this stuff is happening, and we're going to bring it here. We're going to bring it. I've dedicated a lot of time and energy to do this. I think I've kind of run out of things to give the community now, and I think this is my last big hurrah. If I can give something to the community like this and get people hooked up and really have a place for their work to go, maybe even make some money, maybe even sell some work, get published, get seen, get recognized for good work. I don't think people are getting recognized for good work today. I really don't believe that. I think it's so political and so ego-driven that the good work, for whatever reason, a lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it gets pushed to the side for whatever reason. So we're going to try to change that. We're going to try to make that work for everybody and make it happen. So they issued an appointment letter to Mr. Lin Lu at our meeting, and Mr. Zhu Zongren and Mr. Tong at their own meeting. Oh, they did it in 2 different places. Cool. Okay, so do we want to, I think we're going to call this good, guys. Lady and gentlemen, I think we're going to, Ann. Tony, Ann, yeah. Hey, Tony, I hope you're still in there, but I have an obligation at 1300 here, so if anybody have anything to add, I don't want to cut off cold, so anybody want to? Anybody want to say anything or jump in there for the last few minutes? Go for it. Ask the most difficult question you can ask.
Okay, I will give you email, and I just have my new darkroom studio in China, so yes, I will give you email, give you some pictures. So if you have time in China, yeah, just let me know, and we schedule to
Please
visit.
do. Wow, that'd be great. And where are you in China? Where do you?
My studio in Harbin is the biggest city near Russia. It's in the north
Oh,
part.
you're way west. Or
Yeah.
northwest?
Yeah, you know, the east.
Northeast.
Northeast.
Oh, northeast. Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so north of Beijing?
Northern Beijing, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Near Russia. The temperature near like in Rochester now, yeah.
Wow, great! I would love it. That's great, Andy. I didn't know you actually had a studio. I was under the assumption. I thought for some reason I thought you were in Japan. I don't know why.
I don't know why.
Yeah. Okay, well, good. Your English is wonderful. That's amazing. So I will please send me an email. I want to know about your studio, and I will definitely. I think I'm going to be back in China this year, the end of this year.
Okay. Okay.
Cool. Anybody else have anything?
Okay, maybe I would suggest for the next time to prepare some short agenda, what will be discussed. It may be will be better for us to keep some, let's say, not rules but points, and we can be focused on important things which can be planned before next meeting. Quinn.
I agree. I think we should come prepared, and I will do the same thing exactly. Come prepared if you want to. You don't have to. Come prepared if you want to share some work and get some really constructive, good feedback. And of course, and this isn't even worth saying here, but we don't want any people saying stupid things. And I know we won't, because we're professionals, and that crap only happens out there. So yeah, just some basic guidelines. Have some work ready. Yeah. Have something prepared. That's just a few minutes, just a couple, 3, 4, 5 minutes that you can read or talk about the work, and then let us look at it, and then we'll go one by one, and we'll talk about and we'll kind of chime in. I think that would be very effective.
Yeah, exactly. More effective. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, more question, Quinn. So yes. Why you stop to does daguerreotype?
Oh, why did I stop daguerreotype? You know what? Can I answer this real quick? I have time to answer this. Right around the corner, I have about $10,000 worth of daguerreotype equipment. I am not kidding you. I got a fume hood. I got a beak house pot. I got handmade fuming pots. I've got the whole night. I got daguerreotype camera, lens right there, authentic period, everything. I love daguerreotyping. I love it. It's wonderful. The reason I stopped, twofold. The first reason is I am a very simple guy. I don't come from money. I'm a very, what we say in America, blue collar guy. My parents were workers. I've never had a lot of money. I've never, I'm just an average guy. There's nothing really special about me that way. Daguerreotyping is extremely expensive.
Yeah. For
one half plate, silver plated, and this is electroplated, or the electroplated. One electroplated plate costs $75, $75 US for that size. That's just the plate. So for a half plate, $75. Then you get into the whole thing of, in daguerreotyping, there's electroplated plates and clad plates. Clad plates are pressed, silver pressed on to copper, brass, and electroplating is they're submerged, and an electrical process puts silver on it. So
right.
2 different kinds of plates, right? I prefer clad plates. Clad plates are softer. The silver is more sensitive. I can fume over iodine. I have constant, beautiful results. They're a little more difficult to prepare, which is the biggest process of this whole thing.
Yeah, that's the traditional way.
Exactly. But there's only one place you can get these plates. One place. That is a guy named Mike Robinson in Canada.
Yeah, I know, in Toronto, yeah.
He's tied up the market. I don't like it. I don't like being just like Jan. Who said it? Jeff, or who said they didn't want to be a slave to the technology? David did. David did. Yeah. I don't want to be a slave to Mike Robinson in Toronto to get clad plates. I just don't want to. I called the company that he gets them from, and he said, they said I have to go through Mike. So
Okay.
I went through Mike. I bought a few of them, but I just don't like having that kind of one-trick pony, you know, being so the cost kind of demoralizes me. I know that not everyone can work in them. I know that because people just don't have the money. I just don't want to be there. It just doesn't fit me. The aesthetic, I had a project. I'll tell you guys this straight up. Okay, here's the story about daguerreotyping. In 2012, when my show ended in Paris, the American West Portraits, I had a year to think about the next project that I wanted to work on, and what I ended up writing a proposal and a project on was called the Denver Drag Queens. Denver, Colorado has a huge population of drag queens. Drag queens are men who dress like women and put makeup on. They're very flamboyant, and if you don't know what drag queens are, they're like transgender, non-operative transgender people, but very elaborate. Sometimes they're showy, sometimes they're just very elaborate. Denver has a lot of drag queens. I started contacting the drag queens in Denver, and there's some very famous ones here, nationally known. What I was going to do, because I told you my table legs, my workhorse, my 4 legs, identity, difference, memory, and justice. Those are my 4 words that I work from. I wanted to take that word identity and play with that again. So this whole confusion about sexual identity going on today, and a lot of different ideas about what that means and how we relate with it. What I wanted to do, the aesthetic of the daguerreotype is perfect for this project. That's why I picked the daguerreotype to do this. And I started. I was ramping. I was going to do it. Here was the concept. I was going to take the drag queen in his full regalia, the full get-up. Because a lot of these guys, they'll shave their eyebrows. Of course, they're all shaved. They'll shave their head so they can recreate everything like a female, right? Makeup, wigs, hair, all that stuff. So they have they're very bald. They're bald. They have no facial hair at all. But I was going to photograph them in all their regalia, their wigs and fancy costumery and everything. And the daguerreotype has that definition and that clarity like no other process. This refinement. This is what I called it, the refined portrait. This mirror of this kind of silver mirror, this beautiful kind of refined image in all the regalia, and a lot of them had very, very ornate, very decorative pieces of jewelry and things, and very elaborate wigs. Perfect aesthetic, right? I was going to make 1/2 plate of them in their regalia. And then I was going to have them stripped down, and I was going to do a portrait of them completely nude, completely naked, without anything on at all. Bald-headed, bare, no makeup, nothing. And I was going to take these 2 daguerreotypes in cases in these guys, right? I was going to have these cases set up in cases on pedestals. In fact, I was even thinking about having them closed. And you open it up, and you see in one gallery, 2 galleries show, one in front, one in back. In the front gallery, you see the image of the person in full regalia. You close that up. You walk into the other room, and you open another one of these up, and it's the same person completely nude with nothing on. And the idea was to match the identity in full regalia with the identity of nothing at all. And the daguerreotype was the perfect medium for this. But, you know, after I went through all of that, got back to America, I started doing daguerreotypes in 2010 in Belgium. And after I got back to America, I had Renee Smets build all my equipment over there. Wonderful stuff, too. I'd sold that since I've been back. I got all American stuff now. But I thought, man, this is a wonderful project. Then I got looking into it. And, you know, Robinson, yeah, Mike still has the market on that, Dale, by the way. He still controls that. And, you know, and people seem to deal with that fine, I guess. I just decided that I had to back out of it just simply for the fact that morally, I knew I would have, you know, I would have had problems. I would have had problems dealing with the financial, and people would have said, hey, teach me this. Hey, where can I get the gear? Hey, where can I do this? Look, you need at least 10,000 US dollars to start up in daguerreotyping. I mean, at least, if you're going to do it right, at least. And you know, maybe that's not a lot of money to you. It's a lot of money to me. That's a lot of money to most people working in this. So I had a major moral problem with that. And then secondly, I love clad plates, and I just didn't want to be tied and enslaved to one guy in Toronto, Canada that controls the market on that. I don't think that's fair. And I asked him on the phone, I said, is this about money? No, it's not about money. I want people to know how to prep them, and I do all that. And okay, well, you know, it just I don't know. There's some things in these processes. Look, I've got to pick my battles, and that was a battle that I didn't want to fight. So I left that. I'm never without a project in my mind. So I left that, and I immediately said, okay, it's a landscape project. So I did my Native American Massacre. I committed to that. I closed the studio down. I moved out here to Aurora. I got the trailer. I went out on 4 or 5 junkets, and now here I am. So, you know, will I ever do calotypes again? I don't know if I will. If there's an aesthetic or a project that's fitting for that, I'll do that. Right now, wet collodion fits the bill for me just fine. I can't use it on every project. It's not the appropriate process for every project that I have in mind or had in mind. But right now, you know, like I said, I'm kind of moving on to other things in the community. China's a big one. China's really consumed me, and I'm doing a lot of work for them. And I'm sending a package off here in the next week with a bunch of albumin paper and some old photographs and these care packages that I'm going to do once a month to China. So I've got my areas and other interests now, kind of, and I've kind of let that daguerreotypy thing go. It's unfortunate. I mean, I wished I could have done something, but so if you know anybody that wants a bunch of very expensive daguerreotype equipment, come on over to Denver. I got everything you need. You can walk out of here and go home and make daguerreotypes. I'll even give you a couple of plates. I think I have a couple of plates left.
I will come in tomorrow.
Yeah, at some point in time, I probably will sell all that stuff. It's not a big. Oh, that's speaking of which, saying I have a daguerreotype camera. That's the daguerreotype camera with the Jamin Darlot lens. So I mean I love daguerreotypy. Don't get me wrong. It's just a situation around doing that in this particular.
I understand that.
Yeah. So if anybody, I wonder if I
have one question. Sorry.
Yeah.
I have one question, Quinn, before you sign off. I see it's getting awful close to your 4 o'clock or 1 o'clock, I guess it is Mountain. I'm as someone who has been an instructor in the past in workshops and so on, I fully appreciate and understand the requirements for good constructive critique. I think it's a beautiful learning tool. The only thing I would ask, and I don't know about the other folks down here, but I'm probably the neophyte here. When we do these critiques, can I ask that? And if I have a few here that I can show of my own, which are laden with problems and errors and whatnot. Could I ask that perhaps other folks that participate show a plate? Sure, of course we all want to show our good stuff, but we learn from our bad stuff. Our stuff that has errors. That's what we learn from. And there are other of us, many of us are sitting here, and myself included, that many times I don't understand the language or the acronyms and abbreviations. So for those of us that are new coming into this, I can say I would sure appreciate if 1 or 2 or 3 folks would show some common problems and how we can avoid or to work to correct those problems in the future. I know I'd be very appreciative of that, and I'm sure there's some other. We don't want to leave all of us new folks.
No.
It's because we don't understand.
This is as much about the new folks as it is the old folks or the people that have been working in it. Absolutely, good points.
Okay.
Yeah. So
It's very good idea. Sorry, Dale. What you have suggested. So for me, for example, just shortly, I wanted to say that I started with stuff like. I started to sensitize the plates in the servo bath tank, and then I lost more and more silver, and I was not able at some certain time to invest money in silver nitrate, so I tried to use trace. And it works perfectly for me, and I'm able to sensitize still my same size, 8 by 10 inches, but I use not 1 liter, I use 350 milliliters only. Yeah, it works perfectly too. And I now get rid of it or some, let's say, falling stars and so on. It works good. So maybe we can also change some tip and tricks next time during discussion about our falls.
Yes, and keep in mind too, for those of you coming in next time with work that want to show work and have it critiqued, not just by me, by everyone. I'm going to have you critique my work as well too. I'm not exclusive here by any means, but for those of you coming in that want to show the work, be sure you bring the context of how that was made too. So like if there are defects, like Dale's bringing up very good points. If there are defects that you want to talk about, you want to point something out, or you want to ask about something, make sure you have what's the context. How did that happen? What's the context of that happening, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I have just a question. Sorry if it is a little out of topic, and because is almost 1 month that I am experimenting a problem on my plates, and I have heard everything and the opposite of everything. So everyone in the world gave me his opinion that I really love and I appreciate, but unfortunately it doesn't fix the problem.
Yeah.
The problem is that I am experimenting this kind of lines. I don't know if you can see.
No, back it up just a little bit. Back up just a little bit. Oh yeah. Okay.
Maybe this is better. This is a selfie. You see, this is myself. I made a selfie. You see all these lines in a swirly shape. Okay.
What was the temperature? What was the temperature of your silver bath? Was it cold, hot?
Okay. The room was at around 15 degrees.
That's why.
But there's people like Jan that makes plates at -5. So how can?
But we don't know if Jan's silver bath has less cadmium nitrates and contaminants and all kinds of things. Solvents. Those are called solvent swirls from a low temperature in a silver tank. When the silver uptakes and it swirls around like this, you'll see great big Vincent van Gogh swirls.
Yeah.
It can be very, very beautiful. It can really be beautiful. But that has to do, now I can't tell you the specifics because I'm not there and I can't test your silver bath, but I can tell you have different contaminants and solvents in your silver bath than Jan does. And it may only take 15 degrees in your case and maybe -25 in Jan's case to see this.
I've made several times the heavy maintenance. Several times.
Sorry, I want to just. Sorry, David. I have maybe Queen will be confirmed this claim that silver bath works good or works at all only let's say round about 17 degrees Celsius. It is true or not? Because of course my silver bath is not outside. I work in my house and it is in small room and I have there 20 degrees maybe or 17 or like that.
The perfect working temperature is what you're referring to in collodion. If you could have everything perfect, 20 degrees Celsius, 68 degrees Fahrenheit on your silver bath. 20 degrees Celsius, perfect. if you can keep everything there, and about 30 to 40% relative humidity. If you can build a room or take that environment around with you, you can make perfect plates all day long, believe me. Environment has a huge impact on this process, of course. Humidity, temperature, all that stuff. And then you complicate everything by the way you made your chemistry, where your products came from, how old they are, how contaminated they are. There's all kinds of factors to build in. So when you get those gremlins and those really weird things happening on your plate, sometimes it's a different manifestation of a very similar same problem. It just shows itself differently in a different temperature, in a different environment, with a different pouring technique or a different developer time just slightly. There's all kinds of factors. We're working in this kind of fluid process, no pun intended, that changes on the fly. The composition of the chemicals change with temperature and humidity. So you're gonna vary. This is such an unscientific process, and there is so much latitude in this process. People think, oh, you have to have everything just right. No, process E6 film. That's where you have to have everything just right. Process Kodachrome or big sheets of 8x10 dip tank, nitrogen-filled baths, and you're off a degree or two, or that's not strong enough. That's where it's critical. Wet collodion has huge latitude, but it's easy to get out of that when you're combining all these variables all at once. You're used to this, you're used that, you're in this temperature, that humidity, this location, this elevation. I mean, you've got all these variables, and they're all going to work differently, a little bit differently.
And I see that my collodion layer, okay, when I put it out of the silver box, is really, 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 really thin. It's almost transparent, and I really don't know why.
And what is the specific gravity of that bath?
Is 170, 180.
Okay, make sure it's at least 0.075 or higher.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Okay.
And I don't know why it is almost transparent, and I do think I am not sure if it is silver matter or is collodion salted matter.
Yeah. Well, it's a matter. Those swirls are a different combination of things. What's the pH on your silver bath?
3.5, something like around.
Okay, that's good. I was going to say, how many liters of silver do you work with? 1 liter of silver?
I have a bottle of 3 liters, and I use the amount that I need.
Okay.
In small silver boxes or medium, I will only have 1 bottle of 3 liters.
Okay.
And I saw that I made 2 collodion recipes.
Okay.
One with ether and alcohol, and the other just alcohol.
Okay.
And I saw that the layer here is thinner
on the alcohol.
No, in the other one.
On the ether.
Ether and alcohol, the layer is really, really transparent. It's
okay, do this. Do you have any silver nitrate crystal? Do you have any raw?
Yeah.
Make a very small amount of 9% silver nitrate, just enough to fill a small 4x5 pan. Sensitize a very small plate in that. You do the proper thing with the silver. Sensitize it. Do it just like you're doing a big bath. And run that one tiny plate just in that new silver bath and see what it does. I bet you anything. Those marks go away, and it's a combination of your collodion and your bath.
But the only solution is to throw in the trash my 3 liters of.
Nope. What the solution is make a small silver. See if that's the problem, and then if that's the problem, what you're doing is you're eliminating what you're trying to find the source of the problem, because we don't know. It's the X factor, right? We don't know what the problem exactly where the problem is. So what you're doing is you have to eliminate things by making a small silver bath and trying a tiny plate in there. And if that works, that tells you that your silver bath isn't dancing well with those particular collodions. And if you read about my little dance with collodion and silver nitrate, you'll understand what I'm saying. That's not that your silver's bad. It's just that this particular batch of collodion, for whatever reason, and there's 1,000 possibilities, just isn't ripened properly or doesn't have the amount of acidity, really is what it is, to work well with that bath. Now your numbers are perfect. pH 3, 1075 or 9%-ish. As long as it's 9%, it's good. Those are all good. So now we have to remove these other factors. And if you try that, and we're going to ask you next month if that worked or not. So do it in the next month.
Thank you very much.
Anytime. Guys and ladies, I hate to say goodbye because this is really great fun, but I have an obligation that I'm already 10 minutes late for.
Thank you very much, Quint, for today, and I hope I can see you next month too.
Next month, when I get time later this afternoon, I'll make the new advertisement. Get on it and get in here, and we'll do one in March. Maybe I'll do one. No, I don't think I can. I was gonna say I should do one during. I got a couple of workshops next month, but I won't do that because that'll take away from them. I'll get it up online. Get signed up for it. I appreciate your time and your involvement and your caring about this. It's wonderful. I love to have this community. I love to interact and engage with you all, and I hope you feel the same.
Salut and Shishali.
Thank you, Ken.
Ciao, ciao.
Thank
you
you.
again.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye.
Good luck. Bye.